frequent the team while on a campaign tour in Kitui West.
As far as I'm concerned, as Secretary General, everything is going on smoothly now. I have not seen any fallout anywhere. How they will do their work is up to them. Who will appear before them and who will not appear before them is up to them.
Of contention is the act of the 7-member selection panel to include the name of Kitui Governor Charity Ngilu, whose name Okoh says was sneaked in the initial shortlist of 7 candidates. Now, Mani National Congress Party has revised its list of nominated members of parliament so as to comply with the 2/3 gender rule as directed by the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission. The party's Secretary General Simon Kamau says that the party's National Election Board will be conducting the nominations afresh ahead of today's deadline. Consequently, Kamau has asked aspirants who wish to be considered in the revised list to submit their application by Monday. Now, Safina presidential candidate Jimmy Wanjigi has questioned the ability of Independent Election Boundaries Commission to conduct credible elections, citing the nullification of the 2017 presidential poll by the Supreme Court as an indictment on the poll body's capacity to deliver free and fair elections. Wanjigi stated that the commission has never bothered to conduct a comprehensive election audit to explain to Kenyans how the 2017 polls were compromised. He was speaking in Voi during a meeting with party officials where he promised to become the alternative candidate for the youth and the marginalized. Now, the Ministry of Tourism and Wildlife is looking into ways of revamping and increasing tourism opportunities in many of the national parks and game reserves in the country in order to attract more local and foreign tourists into them. Speaking when he and his team went on a hike to Mount Longonot National Park in Naivasha, Tourism and Wildlife Cabinet Secretary Najib Balala said Mount Longonot, for instance, has a lot of untapped tourism potential which has not been exploited to the optimum to spur local and foreign tourism growth in the park. Now, the government says the availability of illegal firearms is the root cause of insecurity being witnessed in Marsabit. Eastern Regional Commissioner Evans Achoki, however, assured the residents that adequate measures have been put in place to ensure that peace and stability are regained. In a press briefing after chairing a security committee to assess the progress of the curfew and the operation that began 5 days ago, Achoki said enough security personnel have been deployed to deal with the situation. Internationally, and a Russian strike on a school sheltering civilians claimed 60 lives. This is according to Ukraine as the G7 reaffirmed their unity with Kyiv on the eve of Moscow's plans for a flashy World War II victory commemoration. As intense fighting continued, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky confirmed the death toll in Russia's airstrike on a school in the eastern village of Bilogorovka. That will be one of the highest one-day tolls since Russia invaded on February 24th. Russian President Vladimir Putin leads commemorations today of the Soviet Union's defeat of Nazi Germany, but Ukraine, under unrelenting attack, is desperate to deny Moscow any sense of military invigoration. To matter sports, and varsity side Strathmore Leos are the new Embu Sevens champions after defeating defending champions Menengai Oilers 1912 at the ASK Showground in Jokiri, Embu. Louis Kesia's Chargers scored 3 tries, converting 2, while Gibson Weru Chargers scored 2 tries and converted 1. With both teams playing in the Kenya Cup brought in Jokiri grounds at a standstill, with the Embu fans supporting the defending champions. But the debutants Leos had a message to send ahead of George Mwangi Kabeberi Memorial Sevens, which will kick off on the 21st of May in RFUEA grounds, Nairobi. Both coaches applauded the tournament, saying Embu Sevens is a way to grow grassroots rugby. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Arseto. Good morning.
SpiceFM, Nyeri.
The following takes place between 6 a.m. and 10 a.m.
Hey, it's getting hot in here. The media has greatly contributed to the moral rot that we experience in this country.
I remember a senior politician telling me, point blank, nobody steals in the field. It's stolen in the granary. So my friend, if you're going to win an election, jipange kwa granary.
I think we are suffering from Stockholm syndrome. Our violator and abuser is also our redeemer. in our mind.
The whole political class, the whole political institution is rotten. It is based on ideals that cannot progress our country
Good
forward.
morning this Monday morning. What are Nairobi streets looking like? Actually, not too bad. Looks like most folks are not up just yet. Taking a look at Mombasa Road, we'll have a bit of traffic there, especially right around the Maritime. Everything else looks A-OK. Coming in from Sabaki out towards the Weybridge and then towards the SGR, not too much of an issue this morning. A little bit here and there on Outer Ring. Jogo Road, of course, with its usual rumblings, has started pretty early this morning, going out then towards Kamkunji and then on to Haile Selassie into the CBDs where we see the most of the action this morning, as well as the Thika Superhighway. That is already moving and probably getting to craze status really fast. How about we take a look in half an hour and see how things open up? Let's talk, guys, on SpiceFM KE on Twitter, text 40127. Let's get things moving this Monday morning.
Spice FM. Spice up your life. This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room.
How are you
The
doing?
only
8
way
minutes after 6. Good morning, and how are you doing? Happy Monday. It's the 9th day of March 2022. Yeah, we understand the president says we're going to have a trial exit of March in a few days' time. But until then, we're in the final week of March 2022. How are you doing, City?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Yes.
Did you have a good meeting on Friday with the president?
Alilenga.
Ulikaa kwa reception?
Baridi ikaingia. Sikumwona. Na si ati reception, ile reception. Pale kwa barabara.
Reception.
Some like 100 meters from the gate. Who just don't walk to the gate carelessly. No. You stand far, wave so they see you, then they tell you come forward.
Tell you come.
Yes. Nobody said.
You just say, hey.
Ni mimi? Kwa an appointment. There's this finger pointing. I can put words to it. Wewe. Then again, wewe, you know. It's fine.
No, the cop said, nimesema utoke hapo.
Which means, I don't know why it is you can't understand that harm is coming your way. That's what that statement means.
Nimesema utoke hapo. Oh, yeah. Sawa. Utakipata. Ndu?
Yeah.
How was your weekend?
Fine, thank you.
You had a good one?
I did. The weirdest thing happened. Friday night, Sundays, huh? Or after Fridays, what? Usually
Saturday.
Yeah.
Usually. But this time what happened?
So I had a dream. A dream. It's been a long time since I've dreamt. But the strangest thing is, the dream obviously was going on. I wake at about 11:30.
At night or in the morning?
At night. Okay. So I was awake a few minutes, maybe 10 minutes or so. I go back to sleep. Said dream continues. And then I wake up again at about 3:15. Said dream is still going on. I wake up 3:15. I'm like, okay, this is really strange. Then I went back to sleep. I wake up again at about 5:40. My dream continued 3 times. Strange thing. The dream continued over a span of like 4 hours. I thought it was really weird.
What was weird? You remembering the dream?
Me remembering the details and that it continued. That I woke up, went back to sleep, and the dream continued.
Let me just burst that bubble a little bit.
No, please.
Just a little bit.
Okay.
You dream very often.
It's just you don't remember it.
Yes, but
right.
you do dream.
But this one was so vivid.
Yes, which we are not going to ask for the details.
Oh no, please don't.
No, I won't. But
Dada yetu anasema the whole night you had one dream.
Yeah, like from 11 to 6 in the morning.
Intermittent.
Like I would wake up, there was like, commercial break.
Then you continue.
Go back
like
and
the point
continue.
where she was running, intermittent, she stopped.
And I wasn't running, actually.
See, that's what I said.
So there's some pepper for your Monday morning.
Crazy, isn't it?
I know, it was really strange.
So was there a conclusion to this dream?
No, it's left me hanging. I was hoping that I would come back to sleep Saturday night and maybe I would continue. Just left me hanging, It's a cliffhanger dream and it did not end.
There are those who say, whether this is true or not is a subject for another discussion, that some of the things you dream about have to do with matters that you keep pushing into your subconscious.
Yeah.
So they sit there. Now, when they come out, they don't come out in order. They just, one you're running, the other one you're flying, the other one you're sitting, the other one...
One you're talking to city, the next one you're talking to I don't know
who. And you can't remember who this person is. The next one, you're talking to somebody you haven't seen in a long time, and they're telling you things. That's... So if it was mixed, it means...
It's a state of your mind.
You piled many things into... That's what some people say. This isn't expert advice. This is anecdotal based on reading pop psychology.
But this is chronological. This dream was continuous.
It was moving from...
And the same characters
as we were saying.
Showed up. Yeah.
Now, where were we?
Exactly. And like, last episode, blah, blah, blah. Seriously. It was
Stick around for
since
from the next episode.
It's like a movie she was watching.
Yes.
Then she gave it version XYZ.
Yes.
Current situation, location Kenya.
Location Indu's brain.
There's a day last week when something similar happened, but no, not like that. But so my alarm goes off in the morning. I snooze. Okay. I continue with my dream.
Yes, how can a snooze go?
Snooze comes in 10 minutes later, I stop it.
Yeah.
All right? And I continue with my dream. Then those guys that I was having a conversation with in the dream, they told me, wait, are you going to work?
Why are you still with us? Should you not be gone by now?
Like, for real. Are you going to work? It was 20 minutes past the time I should have woken up.
You too. I'm going to give you sound advice on this particular matter. The series you're watching, continue. The series you're watching, stop. Look for another one.
It's good stuff, ne?
Sawa. Welcome to Kenya's biggest conversation. Before we hear what's happening in terms of COVID, let's just tell you what's going to be happening on the show today at 8 o'clock. So today, midnight today, is the deadline that IEBC has set for political parties to present their list of nominees to them. And they must abide to the two-third gender rule, okay? Now, what is that going to mean? Also, remember, there's a whole issue of integrity. As you're taking all these names, are those people really people who should be vying for seats? We know all those conversations that are happening around the country. Nelson Harvey, who's a former president of the Law Society of Kenya and himself an aspirant for Westlands constituency, will be joining us talking about the gender and integrity question in this year's election. That's at 8 o'clock. At 7, we know the report that was released by the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics about the Economic Survey 2021. The economy has been growing, burnt at 7.5%. That's a good growth for 2021. However, are people feeling the effect of that economic growth? And that's what we'll be talking to a finance and tax expert, Ronald Borsi, at 7 a.m. Keep it here for that and more.
Okay, so let's say what's going on with COVID in the world. 517 million. We spoke on Friday and we're at 514 million. About 3 million cases over the last 3 days. Of course, the conversation continues about the decline of COVID. The World Health Organization saying, look, yes, we looked at the world meters and we're at 6 million deaths. But very possible that the number is double and a half of the actual deaths on the globe. 15 million is what is projected by the World Health Organization, because deaths that would have occurred according to previous statistics have not been accounted for. And so the likelihood is that they would be attributed to COVID-19. So 15 million deaths is what has been projected by the World Health Organization. That's what we are looking at. But of course, the official numbers have us at 6.2. Let's look quickly at what's going on in Kenya. 13 new cases from a sample size of 1,619. 0 recorded deaths. Still looking at good numbers as far as is concerned. Again, these numbers coming from folks who have to travel and need the certification for that. Stop asking why is the demand that's coming out of China, Shanghai specifically. Lockdowns are being tightened when the thought was that, come the second week of May, that they would open up once again, which is what was said. Some people were actually starting to come out. The government of the city and the country said, you know what? No. Lockdown that's been there for a month, we're going to prolong it into late May. Beijing was saying, look, they're desperate to avoid by turning mass testing into an almost daily routine, but we're going to go ahead with this. Shanghai said, no, we are going to have to deal with this. Now, remember that cities within China are almost autonomous then in what they're able to do and proclaim, right? They've said, look, a fresh push to bring case numbers outside the areas that are facing the strictest curbs to 0 by the second half of May. So what they're trying to say is that by the end of this month, they don't want even one case of COVID. They don't want that. And so they say in order to do that, we're going to have to continue locking down the city, and we will do this until the end of May. So Don't ask us why, don't ask us when. This is what we are doing, and you can say whatever you need to say. Very quickly, COVID in Africa, why the continent's only vaccine plant is struggling. Global organizations that buy vaccines for poorer countries need to step up and order doses from Africa's only COVID vaccine maker in order to save the production line. This according to Aspen Pharmacare, which is in South Africa. And they're saying it's been hit by low demand. In order for the plant to survive, there's got to be demand so that they can supply. If they're not able to do this, the operations then of the plant obviously will cease. And they're saying, look, you want to provide vaccines to poorer countries, buy them from us so that we can have a lifeline. That doesn't seem to be happening. They've negotiated a licensing deal to package and sell Johnson & Johnson's vaccines for distribution across Africa. But unfortunately, sales are low because demand is low.
Is South Africa buying from them?
That's an interesting question.
I would.
Ramaphosa said last week that he was working with Kenya, Rwanda, Egypt and Ghana to make sure that vaccines that will be used on our own continent are actually bought from companies that make vaccines here. So South Africa is buying the bulk of their vaccines from Aspen, and they're asking other countries in the different corners of the continent to do the same.
Are the prices competitive?
That's another interesting question as well.
Africa is really relying on donations.
Nobody wants to buy.
Are African countries buying COVID vaccines?
I mean, look at Kenya, for example. Of the 30 million vaccines that have come into the country, minimum numbers have been bought. The rest of them have been donated. Same thing in Nigeria.
Actually,
same thing.
Is that how we report it? Because knowing the country we live in, it is very easy.
That most of them have been donated.
Yes, and they will tell you they've bought it. How are you going to prove they were bought? And so the vaccines are here. They've been delivered.
So basically what this company is then saying is that as you donate to African countries, buy from us.
Buy from us and then donate.
That now sounds like a statement that has a lot of truth in it.
They're saying in order for us to remain alive, because we did a lot to put this plant here, to answer the African problem, we did a lot to establish this plant here. If you do not buy from us, then the likelihood of us going underwater, or rather going under, is really high.
That thing that Mutahi Kagwe has been talking about it's
real.
A bad idea of setting up our own vaccine production facility.
Because then what will happen?
The only advantage of that is that when you set up such a factory or you have such an initiative, it has the capability of doing other things other than just producing vaccines for COVID.
It can produce vaccines for other diseases.
Yes,
it can do other things in terms of medicine production. I mean, just look at what China and India are doing today. They're relying on nobody for anything, not just COVID, for anything.
On this particular note, Mutahi Kagwe was right. Because it would be just so that we can have national pride that we have our own vaccine production. When we know full well that buying it from people who have larger capacities would actually be cheaper and easier. No. There are other things that we can work on that will guarantee that this push-up of the so-called economic growth is enhanced. So long as there are people who are producing what we need, there is absolutely no harm in just getting it from those people.
20 after 6, let's take a quick break. Are you online? Because we are on YouTube and Facebook. Say hello. After we do the weather forecast, we'll be doing the roll call. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room the only way to start your day.
Cloudy conditions in Nairobi this morning at 17. We'll see highs of 26 and lows of 16 today. It's cloudy at 15 in Nakuru. 25 will be the high and lows of 15. 14 will be the low we're looking at in a currently cloudy Nyeri, going to highs of 25. We'll see 25 as well as a high in a mostly cloudy Eldoret, currently at 14. It's clear at 25 in Mombasa, highs of 31 and lows of 25. And we're seeing a sprinkle of showers here and there in Malindi at 27. Go to highs of 30 and lows of 26. It's raining in Kisumu, currently at 20. We'll see highs of 28. We'll see highs of 27 in a cloudy Kakamega at the moment. It's cloudy in Kampala at 20, highs of 27 and lows of 19, while Dar es Salaam is cloudy at 24. We'll go to highs of 32. Looking at 5 degrees, pretty chilly in Johannesburg this morning, highs of 18, and we'll see highs of 31 in a clear Lagos, currently at 26. It's raining at the moment in Kinshasa at 23. We'll see highs of 32. Out into Beijing, Monday afternoon is sunny at 17, highs of 18 and lows of 7. Today, while it's clear in Paris at 10, we'll see highs of 26. 23 will be the high in London, where it's clear at 7. And still Sunday night in New York, it's 12 degrees. Coming into Monday, we'll see highs of 15 and lows of 8.
Spice FM. Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
22 minutes after 6. A very good morning. How are you? Who is online?
Everybody's online this morning. My goodness. Right off the bat, Agola Linda says, good morning. Are we still in March or can we now move to April? No. Please.
I think we need to agree on this thing, by the way. There are several things that need to happen for us to move.
To April, right. We can just use even 2. But they're quite a number now, and they seem to be piling. So sorry, Linda, we're still in March. We'll let you know when we can move to April. Actually, the president will let you know when we can move to April. Edwin Victor says, good morning, team. Situation. I have a question. Are people still getting vaccinations or what's happening on that front? Well,
yes.
People are getting vaccinated. That's true. I think a lot of people are getting vaccinated because then it's a requirement for what you want to do in terms of travel and you need a certificate, or in terms of, mandates if you're trying to get a particular appointment or something. That we see a drive where people are actually going out and getting it as a form of protection. That has significantly reduced. Should it increase? It must. Tietia says, Ndu, I rarely dream, or if I dream, I never remember. Well, this was one for the books, listing on 96.7 in Mwibale Kadunyi, Bungoma, and waiting for El Presidente at 8 a.m. Well, all right. Mundoro is online as well. Faristo says, good morning. Good morning from Kabiria in Kinudhia Center. That's McDonald Makanga. And Frank Yodor says, CT, the expressway will finally be open on the 14th of May. Good morning, tuned in from Bamburi. Muga in Kiambu County. That's where Bernadette Wajiro is tuned in from this morning. Good morning to you. Michael Musili says he's tuned in and enjoying the show, waiting for today's proverb. Gear up, saddle up, CT. Limuga says, Limuga. It's actually his name. Says, good morning, tuned in from Miritini in Mombasa. Those dreams, I tell you, brother. Victor says, good morning, tuned in from Mombasa as well. Lois says he wants to know what the dream was about. See me later. Gran Kaiser says, good morning. The biggest conversation south of the Sahara and north of the Limpopo. Okay. How many episodes were in season 1 of The Dream? I'll tell you later, guys. Ben Aputo says, good morning, tuning from Siaya County. My goodness, so many of you online today. Definitely don't take that for granted. Robert, Sky, Morris, Jose, Karaoke tuned in as well. David Wasibukia tuned in from Sibukia. If I didn't mention your name, it's not because I don't see you. We see you and we thank you guys.
Yes, everybody, welcome to the biggest conversation. Happy Monday. City, proverb.
We are still in the country of wonder. Mm-hmm. Yes, we only had one proverb from that country. The 2 more to go. Mm-hmm. Okay? A person's heart, the proverb actually read a man's heart, but I have to make this gender sensitive. A person's heart is not a sack open to all.
Let's just go with a man's heart.
A person's what?
Heart.
See Ogunia.
No. Person's heart, not gunia. It's not open to all. And heart here is not head. Ile unaweka kwa kichwa.
It's not hat.
It's not hat.
Na si cape ile wajua unaweka.
It's not hurt.
No.
It's not hurt.
Heart. What? Heart. Boom, 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 boom.
Gudush.
That one. Pump.
Okay. www.standardmedia.co.ke. You get premium content, all the interesting conversations from Standard Media Group, including video content from KTN, including articles from the Standard newspaper, and a lot more. Just log on and become a member of our active community. Captain Ruth Karauri, work-life balance is not for me. You know Captain Ruth Karauri, right? She shot to the limelight the other day when there was a KQ flight that landed at London Heathrow in bad weather, in storm. And everybody was like, wow, who's that Kenyan captain? Turns out it's Captain Ruth Karauri. She says, work-life balance, not for me. Equilibrium results in mediocrity on both fronts, she believes. She'll focus on one. If it's work, it's work. If it's life, it's life.
Balance.
Don't balance. Now that's a person who understands their pendulum.
Says this thing
swings in one direction, it stays there.
Stay on
when
one
you want
side.
it to swing to the other side, it swings in the other direction and stays there.
Stay there. Yes. So let's look at the papers. There's an interesting story on page 3. I'll tell you about it, but let's tell us about the other things first.
Don't you tell us that story?
You're saying we need to look, we need to look at less serious things before we get the serious ones.
Okay, let me tell you this story. It is about a British man, a man who lived in Britain, called Babubai Bagwanji Madivani. Babubai Bagwanji.
This sounds like something serious. It has my attention. Complete.
Saddle up, CT.
Right? No, complete.
A man lived in the UK for very many years, was married, got divorced. In 1999, Mr. Madivani meets another lady. Her name is Maria Burton. Miss Maria Burton is also divorced. She lives in the UK as well. Now, each of them is, of course, living in their own house. They meet and they're like, there's something here. We've got some chemistry. So a relationship begins between Miss Maria Burton and Mr. Babubai Bagwanji Madivani. So they start having this relationship. Man sells his house, moves into hers in the UK. They live together in the UK.
He does what again?
Sells his house, moves into her house in the UK.
Okay.
They live together.
One must appreciate the differences in cultures. But
After his retirement, Madivani developed some health conditions that required him to stay in warm weather. So in 2007, Madivani decides to relocate to Kenya because of the warm weather, and he purchases his house in Westlands, Grevillea Grove. Nice, beautiful home. Because of the love between them, Madivani included his lover's name in the sale and lease agreement as a co-owner and tenant in both, with equal shares of 50%. So man comes, buys a house in Nairobi, and in all the documents, it's him and Maria Burton.
These cultures are very interesting things to observe. It's very good to learn from cultures.
Miss Burton
sells his house first.
Moves into hers.
That's fine. I've understood that one.
He still has cash.
Yes.
He's told, my friend, you need to live in warm weather.
Warm weather,
Nairobi.
Nairobi, not very far from Mombasa. Warm weather.
Fantastic.
Okay.
So he comes, he buys a house in Westlands.
And includes...
And he says, so this house is owned by Mr.
ours.
Madivani. Yes. Madivani and Miss Burton.
Fine. So...
at this point, she was still working in the UK and she would occasionally visit and spend time with him in Kenya. She eventually relocated to Kenya and acquired an alien resident visa to enable her to also reside in the country. So she has moved full-time in Kenya. Okay? Now they're both together in Westlands, in a house jointly owned by them.
At Grevillea Grove.
In 2012, trouble starts when Burton accuses Madivani of being unfaithful after he started dating other women. Problem with coming to Kenya.
See, I told you culture.
Problem coming to Kenya.
Culture.
He's like,
Sheesh.
Culture. See?
So he starts dating other women. Miss Burton finds out. Miss Burton is like, wait, we are not doing this. Because she could not tolerate the infidelity, Burton returned to the UK and remarried in 2015.
Were they married?
No.
They were just playing boyfriend and girlfriend.
They were
playing house.
They were playing house.
Okay.
They were enjoying each other's company.
So they understand.
But there was a tacit commitment and understanding that, we are here for each other. We are one another.
So we are saying that Mr. Madhvani's extracurricular activities
were not allowed.
She didn't like them.
They were interfering with this relationship, and she personally did not like them.
You see, like those coalition agreements that are being talked about with the registrars,
the zoning,
blah, blah,
the ones which have infidelity written all over it.
Yes, the ones
over
that
them, rather.
Yes.
Okay.
It is the same.
Carry on.
There was an agreement lodged with the ORPP between Madhvani and Miss Burton. It is a two-legged stool. There shall be no third leg. Madhvani starts bringing in a third leg.
Yes.
Woman is like, boss.
That's not what we agreed.
That's not it. She goes back to the UK. In 2015, she remarries. After being deserted, Madhvani wrote to Miss Burton in 2016, asking her to sign forms relinquishing her interest in the home because he had discharged her from the trustee's position. So he sends her a letter. He says, you know what, by the way, can you just sign these forms, just relinquishing your position in this home and your claim for this home. The woman declined, arguing that she was entitled to a 50% share of the property, and since the estimated rent for the house was 160,000 shillings per month, she asked him to pay her 8.6 million shillings as half of the rent, that is 80 Gs a month, for the 108 months that they had separated. Are we together?
There are many lessons in this. Carry on. Many lessons. Many.
It's like, by the way, you have been living in my house.
Rent-free.
Rent-free. Can you pay me my portion of the rent?
Do you recall a situation where after certain parties in the previous, not this one, the other one had divorced, and then there's these monies that are supposed to be given to political parties came about.
Yes.
Remember those claims?
Yes.
We were part of this. And then said yes, but then again you are not.
You did not. You didn't deliver.
So, same. Please go
same
on.
issues.
Story, surely.
The man goes to court to revoke Miss Burton's claims in the property, arguing that he was the sole provider of the funds to purchase this home.
He went to court?
Yes.
Yes, no.
He says, I want her out of this property. I bought it with my own money, cash, my own, not even a cent from her. He said registration of the premises in Miss Burton's name was purely as a trustee and that it was never intended to confer any interest to her. He said he included her name because he was aging and he wanted her to transfer the property to his grandchildren in the event he died. That's the only reason he was adding her there. But in her defense, she admitted that although she did not contribute any amount in the buying of this house, she contributed to its development by catering for domestic shopping, paying wages for the domestic workers. She also bought curtains for the house, paid for the international holidays to various destinations, hosted golf tournaments at the Nairobi Royal Golf Club, where they were both members. And she says Madhvani who made her resign from her job in the UK, and although they never got married despite living together, he had put her name on the title because she had served him with dedication for long.
Someone hadn't told Madhvani that he could have gone for either arbitration or mediation on this particular
He went to court.
Good.
High Court initially agreed with Madhvani and ruled that since Miss Burton did not contribute anything in purchasing the home and given that they were separated, she was not entitled to any share. So the High Court said, Madhvani, you're right. This is your property. This is your property. She was like, absolutely no way. She went to the Court of Appeal. Court of Appeal judges Agnes Murgor and Jessie Lecite. Agnes Murgor and Jessie Lecite have heard this matter and they've said, by the way, Miss Burton is entitled to everything.
After all.
His inclusion of her name on the list is reminiscent of an outright gift. There were no strings attached to the gift, no conditions precedent. She was not required to have done anything for her name to be included as a joint tenant and thus is entitled to half share. According to the judges, an intimate relationship existed between the two, and that in exchange for love and affection, the man registered the woman as joint owner of the home, which entitles her to the shares. They say that since the two were registered as joint owners, they are bound by the unities of possession, interest, title, and time, since the interest that they held was as a single owner of the property. It is evident that by the time Mr. Madivani registered Ms. Burton as a joint owner, it was understood that she was an equal joint owner. There is nothing to suggest that she would be anything less. Consequently, we are satisfied that she is entitled to half the share of this house. The other High Court of Appeal judge, it's usually a 3-judge bench.
Yeah.
Justice Sankale Olekantai, however, agreed with the High Court that the woman did not deserve anything.
And there must be consensus across board.
It was a majority.
Hey.
A majority decision. Justice Agnes and Justice Jesse disagreed with Justice Sankale. And now the woman has won the case.
Do you see the precedent that has been set here? A price tag has been put on love and affection.
I saw the way your eyebrows raised.
Oh, yes.
In compensation for love and affection.
I said, yeah.
Yeah. Because she was giving him love and affection.
Sugar daddy beware. God, sugar mommy, beware. Yeah.
This one is precedent setting.
Tenors, Court of Appeal.
Yes.
Yep.
My goodness gracious me. But you know something? Miss Burton deserved to get her share.
Why?
But this one doesn't even require a court of law.
What share? Share of what? Of the house?
Yeah.
Why? Just because the name appeared.
Hold.
Okay.
Hold. Guy sells house. There is nowhere where we are told when he sold his house, he shared the proceeds with her. Moves into her house. Free boarding and lodging.
Amongst other things.
Yes.
In exchange for her love and affection.
Which has a price tag.
In exchange for his love and affection.
No, this was his own.
She accommodated him.
This guy made a mistake. When he started talking about him getting old, so it's him who was being looked after. He shouldn't have spoken about you being old and then when something's grandchildren. He's the one he brought this problem upon himself. Yes. Because it's, from where I sit and given what we've read, it's like this lady was looking after him. So she came to Kenya to continue looking after him. It follows.
Even when he came to Kenya and decided he was going to buy a house, love was still doing him. That's why he put his name on the whatever.
Yeah, I mean, this thing is clear. And if he says indeed he was old, the Court of Appeal were right. Dementia can set in. People...
22 to 7. Let's take a quick break. I want to take a look at the traffic. How's it looking like at this point on a Monday morning? Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to SpiceFM.
Mom, to me, she is courage.
My mom is my hero.
She
Mama,
is wonderful,
loving,
caring,
a listener,
giver,
wholesome,
listener,
kind.
The love of a mother goes way beyond words can describe. Thank you, Mom, because your love is always with me. Happy Mother's Day. Twende to QK. Let's go beyond. Simple, transparent, honest. Safaricom is for you.
Standard Group's Farm Kenya initiative is the umbrella entity for all agriculture-related channels, activities and investments. The media platforms under the Farm Kenya initiative include the Smart Harvest Weekly Pullout in the Saturday Standard, KTN Farmers TV, a 24-hour agribusiness TV station, Maisha Kilimo, a weekly agriculture show on Radio Maisha, AgriTalk on SpiceFM's morning show The Situation Room, and Grind na Agribiz on Vibes Radio morning show Morning Vibes. Find us online at www.farmers.co.ke, an integrated website that creates and aggregates agri-content, hosts a digital marketplace, and wide range of agri-data. Other platforms include specialized events such as the annual Mkulima Expo, quarterly Farmers Kenya breakfast, and dedicated social media platforms at Farm Kenya 254. Farm Kenya, working to secure your growth. Standard Group's Farm Kenya initiative is the umbrella entity for all agriculture-related channels, activities and investments. The media platforms under the Farm Kenya initiative include the Smart Harvest Weekly Pullout in the Saturday Standard, KTN Farmers TV, a 24-hour agribusiness TV station, Maisha Kilimo, a weekly agriculture show on Radio Maisha, AgriTalk on SpiceFM's morning show The Situation Room, and Grind na Agribiz on Vibes Radio morning show Morning Vibes. Find us online at www.farmers.co.ke, an integrated website that creates and aggregates agri-content, hosts a digital marketplace, and wide range of agri-data.
Okay, it's picking up this morning. Looking at quite some traffic on Jogo Road, getting out in towards the city. Kamkunji is not too bad at that roundabout this morning. Uhuru Highway here and there as you get to the different roundabouts. But where you see the most action this morning is on Langata Road. And on the other side of the pond, on Thika Super Highway, quite heavy as you're going just past Allsops at that junction. From Outer Ring also doing the thing this morning. Coming off Wayaki Way, you have some traffic as well, but hasn't quite picked up there either this morning. North Airport Road, then going towards Outer Ring, we see some traffic here and there, but still looks pretty good, guys. Not in traffic hour just yet, but we'll see some movement in a short time. Let us know what's happening where you are this morning. SpiceFM KE on Twitter, text 40127. Let's keep things moving.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM.
Okay.
So NHIF seems to have gotten themselves in a bit of a pickle because they've paid 336 million shillings to a firm that was unqualified. All right. The National Health Insurance Fund is once again, surprise, surprise, in the eye of a storm after it paid 336.3 million shillings to a law firm that had not been pre-qualified to bid for tenders with health providers in the latest scandal unearthed by Auditor General Nancy Gathungu. Curiously, the drafting fully paid for by the taxpayers was not part of NHIF's approved procedure plan for 2018-2019, the period within which the payment was done. So, of course, you understand that when the tender list is put out, these are coming from a list of experts that has already been planned for. So you, according to Auditor General, you cannot come now later and say, well, we paid this person and we decided to do that. It had to have been in the pre-plan, and this was not. It's contrary to the Public Procurement and Assets Disposal Act of 2018. No money had been allocated to pay for legal service, and therefore it went against the Public Finance Management Act. Gathungu, in her report of the audited financial accounts tabled last week, further shows that NHIF paid 156.4 million in legal fees to private law firms who she has not revealed without the consent of the Attorney General. The audit report is before Parliament. The April 6, 2014 circulation issued by the AG requires approval from the office before government agencies engage private legal firms. So here, this was not done. The law firm contracted to draft the contracts charged NHIF 43.3 million shillings for more for company research, company search, printing, binding. Wow, some serious binding. Travel costs, stamp duty, and distribution of the contracts to the various hospitals and other health providers. These hospitals are in Kenya, but this logistics they charge 43.3 million
for the entire job.
No. They charged 43.3 million shillings for company search, printing, binding, travel costs, stamp duty, and distribution of the contracts. This was not the drafting of the contract.
How much did they charge for the drafting of the contract?
156.4 million went to different firms. Okay, total amount that we're looking at now in contention was 336 million. Okay? The audit report indicates that 432.8 million was the negotiated instruction fee to draw 6,700 contracts. Out of this amount, 336.3 million shillings was paid to the law firm. This means that each contract costs 65,000 shillings just to draft. It has not been distributed. It has not been done 1, 2, 3. Okay? The audit report further notes that on November 5th, 2018, the law firm reviewed the terms of engagement and added 309 more contracts for drafting to an additional cost of 26.75 million shillings without NHIF's approval. So they just presented the bill. According to the audit report, under the circumstances, NHIF was in breach of the law and the propriety of the legal fee paid to the law firm could not be confirmed. The audit report also shows that the NHIF board spent 32.1 million shillings in sitting allowances, among other expenses, for 35 full board meetings and 7 meetings for its audit committee in a year. In the process, 12.5 million shillings was spent for the meetings in sitting allowances alone. This means that the board violated its own approved calendar of 5 full board meetings and 4 audit committee meetings for the period under review. Interestingly, the sitting allowances were not supported with signed minutes as required, again, by law. The Auditor General has also questioned the 21.8 million that NHIF paid to its staff as Christmas gifts. And a token of appreciation to its retirees during the year under review.
Which year is this? Which year are we reviewing?
Okay, audit report 2018-2019. Okay. The report notes that the management failed to provide justification on the basis for payment and indication that public funds may have been lost.
It's about questions here. It's about procedure. Right, you have met. If you, as a board, have met, can you justify why you are meeting? Why were you meeting more than the number of times that you're supposed to be meeting in a year?
Sure.
Was there an emergency? Because yes, you could meet, but are there reasons behind the meeting?
And even if there are reasons, are they justifiable, really?
Exactly.
Because then, if you count, for instance, boards whom we have read and heard of, who met even more days than their days in a calendar year. So you wonder, were they then permanently employed? And even if you're permanently employed, there are weekends when people don't work.
Indeed.
You see, it's like the excuse is we have a problem that needs resolving, so we need to meet often. Up to that point, it's perfectly understood. Thereafter, so why do you keep meeting at the same pace? I would assume if for the first 3 months you would need to meet on a daily basis, I would understand perfectly. The 3 months after that, you still have to meet. So what did the 3 months achieve? Because there has to be a point at which you understand what was going on, what you've done. Yes, you reflect, you analyze, you move forward. But just meetings.
This is true.
It's and like the board has become management.
Yes. Which is one of the questions.
Super management.
Because now, Gadongo's office cannot ask those questions, but they can just raise this issue to say, look, hold on here, there's more than you said. And then you do not call, which they ought to. If you find there is need to meet, what they have to do is raise something which they call extraordinary circumstances, under which then they are allowed to meet. But this did not happen because it was not raised. And this is the thing, that according to law, it is very clearly stipulated. Something needs to change beyond the plan that you had set out. You must document it. And now that is where the query comes from, that these expenditures were undocumented.
You know, one of the things that is clear about boards, the meetings are not just things that the chairman and a few of their friends decide.
Oh, let's have a meeting on Tuesday. No, it's not like that.
They are guiding principles. You meet X number of times in the course of a year.
Yes.
And within that, part of it is the AGM when you discuss blah, 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 etc., etc., etc. Isn't it? Now, the Auditor General raises issues and they come to the public eye when sufficient explanation were not given at the time when they asked.
Right.
So, you've had these meetings. Explain to us. They ask you to explain. Explanation inadequate. Apana, that one. No, we need further. If you can explain in a manner that complies with whatever laid down procedures and rules, they say, okay, fine, we've understood, makes sense, we move on. But if it doesn't make sense, So this one didn't make sense.
And if you're going to go by this, then, the bleed that NHIF has been suffering then could be explained.
It's not just NHIF.
Oh, there are many.
It's
There are
government.
many. It's government in general.
Yeah.
So the same things coming, KPLC, whomever, wherever,
Anyway, City, what are you looking at?
I am looking at something that I find particularly interesting. Remember when you're talking about discussing serious things like the issue that one Mr. Madvani and Ms. Button were grappling over, I thought I would look at something that isn't that stressing, something that is simple and straightforward, and something that can give you just a little food for thought, not too much.
Just a bit?
Yes, nothing that would fill you too much.
Okay.
This is on page 5 of the Standard, and it's general election, and the headline is Duale falls IEBC over directive on gender rule. Now, when, Eric, was this particular ruling arrived at by the Supreme Court? Because this thing went to the Supreme Court. Yeah, when did the High Court could pronounce this thing? Because at every
It was a
stage...
High Court decision in 2017.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
March 2017.
Yes.
Okay? They didn't like. It kept moving up. The Supreme Court was definitive. Now, how is it then that a body who's among the functions that are key is the making of legislation, but in the process they can also discuss them? If they had issues with these things, these matters that are now confronting political parties, what matters am I referring to? The IEBC direction. It's causing an issue. And the MP for Garissa Township, one Adin Duale, according to this report, has slammed the electoral agency's insistence that only two-third parties have complied with the gender rule in their nomination lists. Now, I read this entire discussion or this report that refers, okay? If IBC rejected the party's nomination list on grounds that they do not comply with the two-third gender rule, this shall be a violation of the political rights on free expression of the will of the electorate and the rights of every citizen to make political choices. Now, this sounds, yes, it's a good statement to make when you're at a political rally. But when you're a legislator who knew right from 2017 what these issues were, you are in the house where certain things can be determined definitively.
Most importantly, you're in the leadership of a political party.
Precisely. And then you wait until the IEBC tells you what has been the norm for the longest time since the Supreme Court made their ruling. And now you're making it an issue. It's disingenuous.
This is exactly what politicians are doing now. And I think they will force IEBC to, to cave in on this particular matter. And which is very unfortunate, because you see, that's the script that they are now bringing out.
Yes.
First of all, we didn't have very many women who came out to seek elective posts in the nominations. So if we didn't have women in the nominations, how are we going to have women nominees?
That's exactly what they're saying. And you're asking yourself, but you belong to a political party.
What did you do to have more women aspirants?
And the parties who have presented lists with the women aspirants, what have they done in order to do that?
Which is what I think ought to be the sticking point for IBC. That should be the sticking point, because then you had a responsibility to make this happen.
Yeah.
You can't come later and say, it didn't happen. Well, you had a responsibility to make sure that it did. And upon that is what I think they should be faulted for. Right there, you didn't do the due diligence to make sure this thing happened.
The orders by the High Court were clear.
Yeah, very clear.
The order was to two entities. First order, political parties. You must come up with mechanisms to make sure that you have more women participating in the nomination process. First order. Second order, IEBC, you must enforce this.
Yes. So
period. I don't think that, this is great because there are no gray areas here. There are no gray areas. Okay, this doesn't exist. And so what Duale is complaining about now is exactly what the court had said you do before. You can't come and say, well, they didn't show up. You needed to have made sure all your bases were covered to make sure that this happened. You didn't.
Parliament could have made this happen on their own. They had the means to.
The same Aiden Duale, I will not forget him being on the floor of the House in 2014 saying, this matter then cannot be discussed. This same gender issue, this matter cannot be discussed because we don't have quorum, Mr. Speaker, sir. He said it.
Indeed, there was no quorum because the men had taken off, quite simply. And they didn't take off once or they didn't take off twice. So
Not even in the House, because this was not about whether we have a two-third gender law or not.
We do.
This was about political parties making sure that they have their own internal mechanisms to have more women aspirants. That was it. It is not even about a law.
Not asking you to pass the law. Nobody's asking you to do that. They're just saying, here we are.
The law is a separate issue.
Completely.
But you know, I bring in the law, Eric.
He was in the leadership of Jubilee.
He was for the longest time.
He's been in the leadership of UDA.
Yes.
What have they done?
That story is very cleverly left out. You see, why I bring in the issue of the law is because it's a trend. The responsibilities that are upon you that which are be within your purview and within your abilities, you do not attend to.
Yep.
So now that a ruling was made and a position is made clear, you now want to fault that position. And you now want to go around it so that we can forget everything else that happened before and things that you could have done and you didn't do. So we focus on this thing about rights. The rights that you speak of were violated by the very same members of parliament when they didn't do what they were supposed to do.
Exactly.
They were supposed to represent the people who took them there, and they didn't. So they let the courts make that decision.
I hope IEBC actually sticks to its guns.
I'm praying they do.
No, I really hope they do.
But
and we've got to
I have
ruffle
no
some feathers
faith.
here.
I have no faith. We will see, though. So, final story before we go to the top of the hour. This is about still Form 1 reporting. And we have very many children who are supposed to be reporting to Form 1 and may not be reporting to Form 1. One of them is a bright girl called Eunice Okoh, who wants to be a Chief Justice when she grows up. The 15-year-old knew her dream was on course when she performed well in KCPE. The former pupil of Pantpieri Primary in Nyalenda, Kisumu County, scored 387 marks. However, there's an impediment. She's been admitted to Limuru Girls. When she received her admission letter, Okoh was elated. But the happiness was short-lived because it emerged that her family needed to raise 96,000 shillings for school fees. She comes from Nyalenda in Kisumu. She's the second born in a family of 3 siblings. She went to the Standard Group offices in Kisumu yesterday armed with her admission letter and KCPE result slip saying her parents are both casual laborers and cannot afford to raise that 96,000. She has applied for bursaries. She has applied for the county bursary. She has applied for the CDF bursary. She has applied for Equity's Wings to Fly. She has applied for Palm House, a Limu bursary. All of them, she has not received any response yet. 385 marks.
This young lady has done extremely well.
Very well. The government has been saying, pupils from slum areas, we are going to support them with this Elimu bursary.
Okay, here.
This is one. So which pupils are Magoha talking about?
We are going to follow this story and see whether our friends in the ministry actually live up to their words.
How does this happen?
It happens when life is going on its merry path. And unfortunately, this is just one such story. We'll come across many others.
Very many more. There's another one here of a guy who scored 383 marks. He was running away from banditry in Elgeyo Marakwet.
The gentleman called Kip Korir.
Yes, went to Baringo.
Was in Gishu.
Studied there. Now he has passed. Anyway, keep it here for more conversations coming up in the next hour. This is the Situation Room. We are live on SpiceFM around the country. We are also live around the world on SpiceFM KE, YouTube, and Facebook. And if you're online and you'd like to say hello to us, just keep saying hello. We'll keep acknowledging everybody who, for example, Poet Kidi Kibudi, Wangeshiwa Kananu, and others. Wangeshiwa Kamau, Augustine Saoke. Hello from Isinya Kajiado. Hello, everybody. It's now 7 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Good morning, this is Newsline Dennis Aseto. Azimio Secretary General Junet Mohammed has allayed fears of division within the selection committee set to pick the running mate for the coalition's flag bearer, Raila Odinga. Mohammed insisted that the selection panel chaired by Noah Kessa was well in course, preparing to engage the 11 shortlisted candidate for the post.
As far as I'm concerned, as Secretary General, everything is going on smoothly now. I have not seen any fallout anywhere. How they will do their work is up to them. Who will appear before them and who will not appear before them is up to them.
Talks of fallout emerged after Kitui Senator Ednah threatened to quit the team while on a campaign tour in Kitui West.
Lakini hata mimi nikiangalia panel niangalie nione ya kwamba hapa ni mahali tumewekwa mtego so that we can be used as a rubber stamp to a decision that is not good and suitable. Mjue mimi kama Senator Ednah Wambua, mimi kutoka kwa hiyo panel ni rahisi sana. If Kalonzo Musyoka will not be Deputy President on 9th of August this year, then take it to a safe bank. Even Raila Amolo Odinga will not be president.
Of contention is the act of the 7-member selection panel to include the name of Kitui Governor Charity Ngilu's name, who Senator Ednah says was snaked on the initial shortlist of 7 candidates. Meanwhile, the Azimio running mate selection committee will today and tomorrow engage candidates shortlisted to deputize the coalition's flag bearer, Raila Odinga. The chairperson of the selection committee, Noah Kessa, revealed that the panel has already decided on the criteria and the modalities of arriving at the suitable candidate. The question on who is best suited to be with Odinga on the joint presidential ticket has been a sore thumb in the coalition, threatening to create fallout within the mega coalition. Now, Mani National Congress Party has revised its list of nominated members of parliament so as to comply with the 2/3 gender rule as directed by the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission. The party's Secretary General Simon Kamau said that the party's National Election Board will be conducting the nominations afresh ahead of today's deadline. Consequently, Kamau has asked aspirants who wish to be considered in the revised list to submit their application before the deadline. Now, Safina presidential candidate Jimmy Wanjigi has questioned the ability of the Independent Electoral Boundaries Commission to conduct credible elections, citing the nullification of the 2017 presidential poll by the Supreme Court as an indictment on the poll body's capacity to deliver free and fair elections. Wanjigi stated that the commission has never bothered to conduct a comprehensive election audit to explain to the Kenyans how the 2017 polls were compromised. He was speaking in Voi during a meeting with party officials where he promised to become the alternative candidate for the youth and the marginalized. Now, the Ministry of Tourism and Wildlife is looking into ways of revamping and increasing tourism opportunities in many of the national parks and game reserves in the country in order to attract more local and foreign tourists into them. Speaking when he and his team went on a hike to Mount Longonot National Park in Naivasha, Tourism and Wildlife Cabinet Secretary Najib Balala said Mount Longonot, for instance, has a lot of untapped tourism potential, which has not been exploited to the optimum to spur local and foreign tourism growth in the park. Now, the government says the availability of illegal firearms is the root cause of the insecurity being witnessed in Marsabit. Eastern Regional Commissioner Evans Achoki, however, assured the residents that adequate measures have been put in place to ensure that peace and stability are regained. Speaking after chairing a security meeting to assess the progress of the curfew and the operation in the area, Achoki said enough security personnel have been deployed to deal with the situation. And Ukraine now says a Russian strike on a school sheltering civilians claimed 60 lives. This as the G7 reaffirmed their unity with Kyiv on the eve of Moscow's plans for a flashy World War II victory commemoration. As intense fighting continued, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky confirmed the death toll in Saturday's Russian airstrike on a school in the eastern village of Bilogorovka. That would be one of the highest one-day tolls since Russia invaded on February 24th. Today, Russian President Vladimir Putin leads commemorations of the Soviet Union's defeat of Nazi Germany, but Ukraine, under unrelenting attack, is desperate to deny Moscow any sense of military invigoration. Now, varsity side Strathmore Leos are the new Embu Sevens champions after defeating defending champions Menengai Oilers 1912 at the ASK Showground in Jokiri, Embu. Louis Kesia's Chargers scored 3 tries, converting 2, while Gibson Weru's Chargers scored 2 tries and converted 1. with both teams playing in the Kenya Cup brought into Nakuru grounds at a standstill with Embu fans supporting the defending champions. But the debutants Leos had a message to send ahead of George Mwangi Kabiberi's Memorial Sevens, which will kick off on the 21st of May. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
SpiceFM, Nakuru.
Looks like we're going to start traffic out early this morning. We're seeing now most of the action into the CBD today from all sides of the city. Let's look at the Thika Superhighway, which is hot and heavy all the way past that junction, coming from Outer Ring well into Kasarani areas, going then past the Safari Park Hotel and way beyond that. Looks really busy today. We're looking at traffic coming as far back as Clay Works. Also, we're looking at traffic on Kiambu Road today, well into Ridgeways, really heavy this morning. Coming off of Limuru Road, in and outbound traffic, really heavy. So traffic hour started about half hour earlier, and we're looking at Monday morning being really busy. On the Huru Highway, getting into the city, that's doing the thing. Langata Road is also spilling some traffic over onto Raila Odinga Way. Gong Road, also quite busy this morning. Let's take a look at Mombasa Road, inbound traffic spilling over those who decided to go via the Eastern Bypass or onto Outer Ring today to get into the city. So that's what it looks like. The industrial area circuit also really busy as of now. Let's keep an eye on things. Let's see what's going on where you are. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Talk to us there, or let's chat 40127.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not
It is
down.
8 minutes after 7.
This
Good morning.
is the Situation
This is
Room.
the 9th day of March 2022. We will stay here until all those things that are supposed to happen in the end of the first quarter happen. Yeah?
We did here.
Sindio?
Yeah.
Most certainly, definitely.
Yeah. So we'll start using the expressway on a trial basis. Is it like those 14-day trial?
But keep your credit card details here just in case.
Just in case. Is this what we're talking about? Is that what's going to happen? Or is it not? We're just not sure. Anyway, until everything is aligned, we shall remain in March until the president launches us into
April.
And maybe he shall fast track us into May. We don't know. We shall see. C.T. Muga has the day's proverb from Rwanda.
I do. A person's heart is not a sack open to all.
A person's heart is not a sack open to all. What are they talking about? What do they mean?
Well, where do you find sacks? And what are sacks used for? Usually people keep things in sacks for purposes of, should we say, transportation. And after transportation, to a place where they will be
stored.
Precisely. Now, whatever is in that sack, at some point or the other, will be available to all and sundry. Things that are meant to be kept private are never kept in a sack. Not really. It's storage, later to be put perhaps in an open space, if it's food stuff, if it's items for sale. And the moment you mention sale, marketplace, public.
So it becomes now public property.
It's public property.
Whole big issue here.
Yes, the eventual destination. The sack was just a means of transportation, ensuring that whatever you have is kept in one place and provided with some safety. Thereafter, Now, what goes on in your heart, in most cases, is actually known only to you. Other people can think they know, but they only know what you'll allow them to know.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Nisasawa. On Thursday, the Ministry of Finance and Planning, with the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics, released the statistics of Kenya's economic outlook for 2021. So what the government is telling us is that Kenya's economy grew 7.5% in 2021, which was a very good thing because in 2020, the economy had shrunk. Among the big indicators of this was how many things were happening. Number one, the private sector had dipped in terms of growth in employment. Manufacturing had shown some bit of a rise. Agriculture has shown some bit of a decline. We're looking at all these things on Friday and saying, so what does this mean? Counties, there were some counties, 5 counties who contributed 47% of the GDP. Nairobi, Kiambu, Mombasa, Nakuru, Machakos. These 5 counties contributed 47% of this growth. Then we have other counties, the bottom 5, which contributed only 1.7%. These are Wajir, Lamu, Tana River, Samburu, and Isiolo. What exactly does that mean? What needs to improve? University loans declined, with 34,531 students not being able to access the loans. We need to talk about that as well. The report has good findings. Enrollment in technical and vocational training for diplomas and certificates increased by 22%, which is a good way to go if you think about what we've been talking about in terms of education and skill for people. Savings in SACCOs grew 540 billion shillings. SACCOs can be leveraged to improve the economic well-being of members in housing, in education, in investment, in very many things. These are very many things that have happened. However, when we say that the economy has grown by 7.5%, at a time when the people are complaining about the rising cost of living and being unable to afford what they were able to afford a year or 2 years before, how do we translate that? We have a guest in the studio. Let's introduce him. Ronald Bosi is a finance and tax expert. He's a group managing partner at Ronald's LLP. He's with us in the Situation Room. Good morning, Ronald.
Morning. Thank you.
Good to have you in the Situation Room. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. Yeah, and that is the hot seat.
Thank you.
And because you're the finance expert, we're not going to treat you like you're the KNBS or you're Okoh attorney.
Yeah.
But we want to understand very many things from the knowledge that you have.
Yes.
Tell us about Ronald's LLP.
Ronald's LLP is an audit, tax and advisory firm. We actually help businesses to grow to the next level by actually advising them in terms of restructuring, in terms of positioning them, and of course advising them on the strategy in the East African region, Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, and Tanzania. We're based in Westlands, and I'm glad to be here.
When you say, I like what you're saying, by the way.
Yeah.
Yes, it makes me feel that if one comes to you, one will leave there infinitely better than when you first came in.
Yes, yes.
But you advise businesses,
Yes.
you advise industry.
Yeah.
By the time you're advising them, they're already established as businesses,
Yes,
as
yes, yes.
entry, as industries. So when you say restructuring, what do you mean? How do you help them restructure? When you say strategy, what do you mean?
Okay. In terms of structuring, one of the biggest challenges, especially we have with Kenyan businesses, we have very good entrepreneurs locally. And they set up very viable businesses. The biggest challenge we've come to realize is that how can they scale their business to the next level, and how can they make those businesses more sustainable and more generational? As you realize that we don't have many generational businesses in Kenya. Some of the challenges that hinder these businesses from becoming generational, mostly dying with the founders, is because of the systems and structures they have, especially in terms of what are their financial structures. Do they know in terms of how do they generate businesses? How do they account for their income? How do they manage their expenses? How do they make maximum use of their assets? And of course, how do they ensure that there is a very seamless system, financial system in place to be able to give them good indicators in terms of what their numbers are saying and how they can leverage on those numbers to scale up. The other challenges they have is the HR systems, issues to do with financial management systems, issues to do with governance in terms of reorganizing themselves so they can be able to attract more customers and investors. So that is the biggest challenge we have, and that is the solution that we provide to these local businesses. Other challenges that also these local businesses have is in terms of compliance. Most of the companies always hope that there were no taxes, and taxes is a necessary evil. So we actually help them to remain compliant while not shutting down their businesses because of KRA has invaded their business. Yes, yes.
When you look at what the government released last week, and
Yes.
these are the figures on how the economy performed.
Yes, yes.
If you look at your own experience dealing with the private sector,
Yes.
would you say that you could have predicted that this is what the government was going to tell us? That, the economy has grown 7.5% growth. We have a 12 trillion shilling GDP.
Yes, yes, yes.
Is it felt?
The GDP is not felt because in the past I've been on the media and I've said that the method of measuring the GDP, yes, is a good indicator, especially comparatively when you want to compare an economy with other economies. But there are limitations to the GDP measure because one, the GDP measure does not address the disparities in an economy. You have an GDP growth, but only affecting certain players in an industry. For instance, you realize that the banking sector has grown tremendously in this country. But who are the only people who will feel the growth in the banking sector are the shareholders of the bank, who are mostly top tier persons or persons with high net worth individuals. That is not felt by the common mwananchi. Because the common mwananchi is the lower tier whereby they are receiving a very minimum wage, and in the face of inflation whereby this inflation is taking most of their money, meaning that they have a very little disposable income, they are not feeling. So that even though you might have a very significant or marginal growth in the GDP, you will have a very distressed individuals in that economy because the inflation rate is actually eating into their income. So that is the biggest challenge we have in this country. So that is a challenge we have with the GDP measure. I have said that in the future we need to see, even as we measure the GDP, are we able to measure the disparities between the rich and the poor? In terms of this growth, who is benefiting from this growth?
So is there negative growth?
Of course, there is. It can be like a growth, but it is not distributed equally amongst the citizens.
Right.
Yeah.
So when we say that the economy grew, then
Yes.
it's actually not true.
No, it is true.
If you take it from where I'm coming, if we say the economy grew by 7.5%,
yes,
essentially what is being presented here is just a number, right?
Yeah.
Taking into consideration the loss that was being made as a result of these factors that you have mentioned.
Yes.
And there's negative growth that has then taken place.
Yes.
It's not a standalone. You cannot take the growth of an economy into consideration without taking into consideration the losses. Is that right?
What we need to do is how are we measuring the economic growth? Because when we mean economic growth is a growth in productivity.
Right.
And there's a possibility that as a country, because as time moves, we are a developing country.
Sure.
There is definitely a growth in productivity.
Yes.
The problem we are having is how is the distribution of this productivity across the industry?
Okay.
How is it being utilized by the individual citizens? You will find that there is an increasing growth in the high-end net worth individuals, but there is a lot of increase in poverty because of inflation. So what we need to address is how do we address the lower tier citizens who are not able to benefit from this economic growth because of significantly inflation. Because you see, productivity is synonymous with inflation. Because when there is high productivity, because there's a lot of demand for production input. That causes inflation to occur. And there's a possibility that this economy will have grown by 7.5%, as actually put in the statistics, because, after COVID, 2021, we were just recovering from COVID. Most people are trying to get their act together. They're trying to actually now acclimatize themselves with the effects of COVID. They're saying, okay, even in light of COVID, let's go and start making something happen. Let's go and continue reproduction. So there's a lot of demand for goods and all that, leading to inflation. And because of that recovery in production, to address the demand that is there, that leads to economic growth. The only challenge we have is that economic growth. Yes, we are having it. There is a lot of inflation because there's a demand for those production inputs, actually now increasing the prices of commodities in the marketplace. But it's a cyclic effect. The inflation must be addressed because of the laws of demand and supply. Because after the economic growth, there must be now price balance because of now oversupply in production. When there's an oversupply, and then now the demand is addressed, and then the prices keep on falling because of competition. Yes.
Now, this competition takes place between whom and what? Because if we want to do a comparison between Kenya, we're talking about 7.5% growth. However, that growth cannot be felt because there are other factors then that come into play.
Yes.
But we are saying that now, in order to balance this out, there must be then healthy competition between products. Right? Is this product internal and external? Is this product, for example, imports and export, or locally manufactured goods? Between whom and what is this competition supposed to take place?
The competition that is supposed to arise to address the demand and supply is both internal and external. Meaning that when there's production, there is demand. So probably if Kenya is producing, for instance, vegetables and fruits, and even coffee or tea, there is an international market that actually demands those products. So if there's international market, you have to export or even sell locally. So both of them actually offer competition for producers. You'll realize that, like for instance, we have now Russia that has chaos and challenges now, curtailing the export of flowers. So you realize the flower industry is mostly slowed down, and there's an oversupply in flowers because they can no longer export, therefore affecting the flower prices both locally and internationally. Because of the market, some of the market is shrinking because of lack of that demand. So that competition is both for internal parties or internal producers and both external producers, because there are two types of markets. There's the local market and there is the global market. And the demand for a commodity, because we are actually currently we are living in a globalized economy, the demand for commodity is both local and international demand. If its international demand is affected, then it affects local demand. If local demand is affected, it also affects the international demand. So those are the parties that actually influence the pricing of commodities. If
you look at how the government itself performed. So there's been a steady increase in tax revenues collection. Is this a significance? Does this signify that there is growth in the private sector, or is it more compliance by the same people in the private sector?
There's an increase, a steady increase in the taxes, but not as it should be. If you look at the increase in the tax collections relative to the GDP, it's very slow, meaning that we are just taxing the same people. The biggest challenge we have with the economy is we are not able to grow taxpayers. We are taxing existing taxpayers more and more without creating more taxpayers. The most ideal way to create more taxpayers is to create employment locally, to actually catalyze industry and make sure that there's a lot of establishment in the industry locally to employ more people, and these people pay what you call pay as you earn. So the challenge we have is now we have taxed the same people more and more because we have the VAT, we have pay, we have customs, we have excise duty that has been introduced almost on each and every product in this country, affecting the consumption and even inflation in this country. So yes, taxes have grown, but you realize that since even the coming of this government, there's a lot of tax heads that has been introduced. Currently, we are paying 20% on airtime, which wasn't there, on even bank service charges. There's a lot of taxes that. So this has actually increased in the tax growth, but it's counterproductive because we are not growing the taxpayers. We are taxing the same people, therefore leading to a lot of unfriendliness between the taxpayer and KRA.
But see, the government statistics also indicate that year on year we keep having, government says we have created 500,000 jobs.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Like year on year, over the last 9 years of the Jubilee administration, there has, just in the COVID years when the figures dropped to about 300,000, but we're doing 500,000 new jobs and above. What does that mean?
It's a good indication. But relative to our population, it is not effective enough. Because what is the growth of, in terms of even how many graduates are being churned into the industry year in, year out? So you realize that there is a lot of growing unemployment in the country because currently there are so many companies. You realize the level of growth in companies is very slow. If you go to some of the office areas, like you go to Westland, you go to Upper Hill, there's a lot of free space for offices, meaning that companies are not coming up to employ people because of, one, our tax regime, because you realize that the corporate tax, the customs, excess duty, they are too high and all that. And you realize that even the investing climate, now we're having a very big competition from countries like Rwanda because of their efficiency of doing business. And Ghana now is introducing very friendly tax regime to attract more people. So you realize that, yes, we are growing in terms of those statistics being announced by the government in terms of employment rates, but are they relative to our population? You realize that we need to talk about what is the unemployment rate and how have we lowered that unemployment rate in this country, not how many people have we employed.
How many new jobs?
How many new jobs? Yeah. Are they reducing the unemployment rate? You might create so many new jobs, but at the same time create so much also unemployment, in other industries, in other sectors. Yes.
Many have argued that in order to get this balance that we're often seeking, whereby should there be a loss because of whatever factors, COVID, world pandemic, a war here and there. Because the truth of the matter is that regardless, for a lot of countries, regardless of what is happening externally, they're still able to keep their numbers intact because of this huge production that you've spoken about, that the population then is taking part of. Look at what's happening with Indonesia and Malaysia today with the oil, and they're saying, well, you know what? We are not going at a loss, but what we're doing is protecting our market so that we have enough for ourselves before we think about outside. They're not suffering. Do you think then that manufacturing, production needs to take place in country in order to have significant growth and balance of the same to solve this problem that we're talking about?
That is true. And one of the things I want to tell you is one of the things that I really look at and sympathize with this country is issues to do with infrastructure. If you look at the budget, infrastructure is our biggest expenditure. And the amount designated for the infrastructure, around more than 300, in the excess of 300 billion shillings, designated for infrastructure, is one of the largest expenditure, even second to maybe more than even security and other, even coming second to education. But you realize that if you look at infrastructure, especially our roads, they are mostly constructed by foreigners. And foreigners are the ones who own the capital and all that. Okay, no problem with that because the Chinese have done a big job in creating the express highway, though I missed using it this morning. So I was expecting I'll use it to be more early. But what you realize that, yes, we are engaging the foreigners to do our infrastructure. For how long are we going to do this? Are we not able to build local capacity to do our own infrastructure and even support neighboring countries? Because we have these many graduates that we are churning out of school from engineering schools, from all that. But most of them, we are just seeing other foreigners come and construct roads. We end up just being, you're just there like mostly casual laborers. But then what did China do to ensure that they made those Chinese into contractors who can be able to supervise a project like Express Highway. We need to see how do we support our young people to go to even foreigner universities, because you realize that the way China did it, they had to sponsor their children into foreign universities, to America, to Germany, to UK, to get the technology that they are deploying now in the country. So yes, it is not bad for us to use the Chinese to do our infrastructure, but then can we really be more deliberate about building local capacity so that we can be able to create local jobs? Because we are going to talk about this high unemployment rate, but at the same time we are exporting jobs because we are saying we don't have capacity. Can there be deliberate strategy to sponsor these people to get that know-how so that in future we'll be able to do our own roads? And we are not going to stop doing infrastructure in this country because we are being underdeveloped. There's so many areas today they are not having the road networks. Are we going to continually rely on foreigners to do our networks and export our capital? So that is one way of doing creating jobs seamlessly in the long run. The other issue is to spur our production. You realize that we have a lot of goods, even basic ones, that are being imported. Today, we are saying that we're going to import maize. And recently, there was a planting season, especially in most of the Western, the Trans-Nzoia, and the North Rift, whereby they're producing a lot of maize. But we are not deliberately assisting those farmers to actually have access to those inputs, especially fertilizer has been overpriced in this country. You realize those things have the inputs for production, feeds and all that have been overpriced. Then now rendering our economy reliant on imports. Soon we are going to talk about importing maize, importing chicken. Now we're going to import milk. In spite of now being a rain season, you expect feeds are available. Because we are not actually deliberate about spurring productivity locally. You look at the manufacturing industry, it's actually now most people find it easier to import goods and package them. Like sugar now, the sugar industry is dying. The next thing is to rely on imports. That is going to affect the local jobs creation, and that is the problem whereby we're going to record growth, especially in the roads construction, growth in the banking industry, but no growth in employment relative to the growth in the population.
There's a silver lining though, and this is with regards to the tech sector. So we've seen, for example, Microsoft opening big office here and saying, let's employ locally. Google doing the same, let's employ locally. And the next thing that you are hoping to see in future is also production of some of these things. So for instance, we hope that one of these fine days, Samsung, for example, will be able to be producing some of its chips from Kenya. Maybe going to the Dedan Kimathi University in Nyeri, where they are already starting to produce some locally manufactured chips. But by the time they do that, we'll be happy. For now, let's buy the new A series.
Right.
The Samsung A33, A53, A73. You've heard about them, Ronald? It's basically a camera. Disguised as a phone. Right? Very, very good, powerful cameras. Good resolution and also good screen. When you go outside and you're trying to text someone or you're trying to call somebody and you're going through your phone book and you can't see because of the sun glare, this one has been made such that you can actually see even in those very bright environments. Very beautiful phones. Awesomeness.
Indeed. Capture awesome with Samsung new A series and making it easier for you to capture awesome moments, as well as a 2-day battery that allows you to do that without charging for 2 days straight.
2 days.
It's better than that.
Yeah, those days when Ronald Bossy is very, very busy working for his clients and not even going home for 2 straight days, you don't have to worry.
You'll have your battery life.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
It lasts that long. Let's take a quick break. Ronald Bossy is a finance and tax expert. He is also the managing partner of Ronald's LLP. He's here. We're talking about economic growth in the country. Is there real economic growth? The government says the economy is growing. Many people will tell you, we're not feeling it. So how do we bridge that gap? 27 minutes to 8.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM.
Whether it's your graduation,
I love you,
or your engagement day, For those unlimited moments, nothing can capture them better than the new Oppo Reno 7 AI triple camera. Or step up your selfie game with the ultra-sensing selfie camera and save them all with the 256 GB memory space. Comes in exquisite fiberglass leather design in sunset orange that will definitely get your friends talking. The brand new Oppo Reno 7.
All right, 17 degrees and mostly cloudy conditions. Sun is coming out at some point in Nairobi. 26 will be the high and lows of 16. It's cloudy at 16 in Nakuru. Highs of 25 and lows of 15. At 14, it's cloudy in Nyeri. We'll see highs of 25 and lows of 14. Cloudy conditions in Eldoret this morning at 14 with highs of 25. The sun is out in Mombasa today at 26. Highs of 31. We'll see highs of 31 as well. It's raining, however, in Malindi. 19 degrees and mostly cloudy conditions in Kisumu. Highs of 28. And we'll see highs of 28 in Kakamega, where it's mostly cloudy at 16. In Kampala, heavy thunderstorms this morning at 27. We'll see lows of 19. And Dar es Salaam is sunny at 24, highs of 32. Looking at 4 degrees, temperatures dropping in Johannesburg. Highs of 18 today and 31 will be the high in Lagos, where it's mostly clear at 26. It's raining in Kinshasa now at 22. That'll be today's low, going to highs of 32.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM.
Mom, to me, she is courage.
My mom is my hero. She is wonderful, loving,
caring,
a listener,
giver,
wholesome,
listener,
kind.
The love of a mother goes way beyond words can describe. Thank you, Mom, because your love is always with me. Happy Mother's Day. Twende to QK. Let's go beyond. Simple, transparent, honest. Safaricom is for you.
Mom, to me, she is courage.
My mom is my hero. She is wonderful, loving,
Caring,
a listener,
giver,
wholesome,
listener,
kind.
The love of a mother goes way beyond words can describe. Thank you, Mom, because your love is always with me. Happy Mother's Day. Twende to QK. Let's go beyond. Simple, transparent, honest. Safaricom is for you.
Traffic hour proper is where we are this morning. At least at this point, Gong Road looking pretty busy getting into the city. Where else are our eyes? Coming out of Westlands, that entire area, then seeping into Lavington is also starting to be really busy. Coming off State House as well, going in towards Ring Road Westlands, and then coming off of Waiyaki Way into Chiromo. That is looking like a nightmare already. Limuru Road in and outbound traffic. Same thing is replicated on Kiambu Road, going well into Kenya Pipeline Estate, Coffee Gardens and beyond. Thika Superhighway started really heavy this morning, and well past Clayworks is where we see traffic this morning. All right, on Juja Road as well, in and outbound traffic. We're seeing the same thing happening on Kangundo Road. Then everybody connecting with Outer Ring. Coming off Mombasa Road, also piling up at the Weybridge, heading out towards the SGR. North Airport Road is also looking like something this morning. Keep an eye on things. Really busy. Traffic hour has begun. Let's talk on SpiceFM KE. A couple of accidents have been witnessed across the city this morning. Tafa Valley, be careful. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
It's 22 minutes to 8. Kenya's biggest conversation. It continues. We're talking about economic growth, real or imagined. With us in the studio is Ronald Bossi. He's a finance and tax expert, managing partner at Ronald's LLP. So we have basically seen the government says this has happened, and we're looking at sector by sector. So the manufacturing sector has recorded some bit of growth.
Yes.
Obviously, you'd expect, because 2020 industries had shut down because of the lockdown, then you'd see some resurgence. But overall, the economic growth in the manufacturing sector has actually been declining.
Yes.
If you look into the last 7 years, what does that say about the health of Kenya's economy?
I think in terms of the manufacturing sector, I would say probably the growth between 2020 and 2021 was more of a compensating factor. Compensating in the sense that because most of the manufacturing was on a slowdown, especially during COVID. Even though manufacturing wasn't shut down, there wasn't a lot of consumption for some items of production. So because of that, there was a slowdown in the manufacturing sector. So 2020 there was more of a compensating growth. Actually, industries trying to now catch up with the production, the demand that was there in the previous year. And then, of course, also we need to consider the manufacturing, especially in the PPEs, that is not likely to recur because most companies invested in the manufacturing of PPEs, and thanks to the Ministry of Health that say that you need to have locally produced PPEs that are able to export it to other countries. So you realize that this could be actually very contributory factors to the manufacturing growth, but you realize that PPEs is not a long-term manufacturing, idea that is going to be there for long. But thanks to now we have the Moderna guys now trying to set up a manufacturing factory in Kenya in order to make sure that there is productivity for the vaccines, in the country. So probably that is also going to spur the productivity in especially manufacturing.
It's interesting that you say that because I think then it's dependent on other factors.
Yeah.
Just earlier this morning, we were talking about the fact that South Africa is struggling and saying, you know what, here we have this plant, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
However, if you don't buy from us,
Yes.
it's essentially going to shut down.
Yeah.
Even if there's need on the African continent to say we need vaccines or we need that production to take place on the continent, if you do not buy and then donate, then there's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
And then here we are saying that in Kenya the same thing could save the situation, and we see a problem already in South Africa.
Yeah, of course, the issue we have is, but Kenya, we are sitting at a very unique position compared to South Africa. So I hope that the position not to recur because we have a very vibrant East African community. So you're looking at putting up a manufacturing in Kenya, you're looking at the larger market. You're not just looking at Kenya as a country. So you're looking at how is the East African community connected and how you're able to unlock the market that is within the East African community. You're looking at Kenya, Uganda, Rwanda, Tanzania. Of course, you're looking at maybe Congo now coming part of East African community, and Southern Sudan is really a good gesture in terms of growing the East African market. And of course, the biggest challenge we have in Africa is the fragmentation in the countries. You realize that because Africa is not trading with each other so much, you realize that that is affecting manufacturing in Africa, because if you put up a manufacturing plant in Kenya, like what you're putting up with the vaccine, what is the extent of the market? You realize that you go to China, it's quite a big market. You go to other countries like America, it's a huge market comparatively to just a country in Africa. So Africa can only be strong if it trades with each other. And we hope that the recently inaugurated African Free Trade Area Agreement in Ghana is actually going to encourage that, so that if Kenya puts up a vaccine factory, it's not only going to be used locally.
Of course.
It's going to used in the East African region, and of course even the Central Africa region and other parts of the West African region. Because I don't know what is happening in Nigeria, but if this market could be unlocked and bundled together, it could offer an incentive for having manufacturing industries set up in Kenya as a region.
You know, this discussion about Africa trading with itself is a good one. That's why the Africa Free Trade Area discussion within the AU has been taking place for a very long time. On paper, in theory, you cannot ask. You talk about a billion-strong population within the continent. It's an excellent idea.
Yes.
But if the process of manufacturing itself is expensive, case in point, Kenya. These power costs that we keep talking about, how do we become competitive? I'm speaking as a layman here, of course. How do we become competitive when our power costs are what they are? They are exorbitant, not expensive, exorbitant.
Exorbitant, yes.
We talk about, in this economic survey report that was written, you're talking about a problem with what? Geothermal power, which is considered to be extremely expensive, and yet that is the power that we seem to draw most from. So the logic escapes me. There's something that I don't understand. I would have assumed that if the cost of power was produced, the ripple effect would be clear.
Yes.
Cost of manufacturing will go down, cost of goods will go down, and of necessity they would become competitive. But this doesn't seem to be the case.
Yes. Yeah, power is also, I agree with you, power is a very big contributory in terms of just trying to spur up manufacturing. But in Kenya, we're not really, yes, there's a problem in terms of the cost of power, and I believe that the government has been very deliberate in trying to correct the cost of power by giving various incentives and all that. But the beauty about it is sustainability. You go to other countries like Nigeria, they have a challenge in terms of even the availability of power.
I think it's more than a challenge.
Yeah, it's more of a crisis.
Yes,
Yeah. A huge market, but without power, which is a really big enabling.
And yet they export their power.
So they have a big challenge. So in Kenya, we have put some right measures in place. One of it is power. Infrastructure is also a very good thing in Kenya. Just looking at the infrastructure that's been put into place to try to enable the movement of goods from one region to another. And of course, connectivity with other countries has also been a very major boost. Technology, which is also a very major influencer of productivity, is also a very good investment that the country is making in. But then the challenge we have is just to ensure that there is enough labor, and labor that is more of able to do simple things. That's thanks to the competence-based curriculum, is going to address this issue of labor gaps. Because how did countries like China grow to be powerhouse in productivity? Is available labor, and of course making that labor not to be so expensive. How you make that labor not to be so expensive is reduce the cost of living, because you cannot pay people minimum wage and expect that they are going to live in deplorable situation and offer labor to this industry. Is to correct the cost of living, offer education to these people, offer good health, offer available food and housing, so that they are able to work free. And even if you give them a minimum salary, they're just able to cover for their few necessities, then it's going to address the issue of labor and all that.
Pardon me for belaboring the point, no pun intended.
Yeah.
But sticking on this manufacturing issue,
yes.
if we look around the world, take your pick, whether you want to look at what happened with the Industrial Revolution, whether you want to look at what happened in China after pulling its people out of poverty, wherever you look, and you look at countries that have developed economically, the thing that they did was manufacture. Initially for the local population. The surplus is now what then was used to supply to the rest of the world. Now, if we want to localize this same thing, from the statistics that Eric gave, Nairobi bears the responsibility for, bringing in much of the revenue in the country. Do you think, or how would it look, suggested that there needs to be a distribution of this same manufacturing so that you have other pop-up cities, pop-up regions within the country that then can contribute significantly, whether we're looking at the eastern part of the country whereby the port is located, whether you're looking at the breadbasket in the western part of the country, saying that everybody then now contributes and making or putting up the infrastructure that would require or even demand such things to take place. Would all of these not then contribute to growth for the country?
Yeah, I agree with you. One of the things that that we need to do as a country is to distribute manufacturing, because I believe the opportunity and the potential we have in this country, we have not even scratched the surface. If you look at the way the country is spread out, and we look at what we're calling the special economic zones that the country is coming up with, the government is coming up with, so that to spur productivity across the country. There is the government has gazetted various special economic zones that gives very good tax incentives for companies willing to invest in those regions. But the challenge is there's been an awareness in terms of are the manufacturers and even those investors aware of this special economic zone. But then have they also created enabling environment in those particular special economic zones? Because I've queried even, for instance, why should we have everything in Kenya concentrated around Nairobi? Why should we have the judiciary, the parliament, all of them, the
main government offices,
all of them concentrated within Nairobi? Part of the distribution, because you see, for you to actually grow certain economic zones, you need to introduce populations and the infrastructure in those. So to be able to do that, you need to spread out the government administrative offices so that you create population in that place, and then that population is also anchored on infrastructure. Then that infrastructure, because of that population and infrastructure, then the manufacturing will sprout out, because to support that particular population before even looking out to the international market.
Sure.
So yes, we are saying that we have these gazetted special economic zones, but what infrastructure has been created in those special economic zones, and even are we still concentrating everything around Nairobi and expecting people to go to the remote areas for production?
What you say, I like the vigor and the energy with which you've said it. Spot on.
Yeah.
But the special economic zones are not only within Nairobi.
Yes.
That is a fact.
Yes.
Fact number 2, yes, CBC offers the gateway to, should we say, looking at our primary education and focusing it on something that may be relevant to us.
Yes.
But the tertiary education and colleges and universities, where the specialized training for what you speak of,
yes,
that is something that has been a point of discussion.
Yeah.
The actualization is an ongoing process.
Yeah.
Why do I say this? If you look at the AGOA project that came to Kenya, it took the view of the very thing that you're saying, that local talents would be spurred on, technical abilities would be spurred on, and indigenous individuals would be able to grow businesses. But then what happened? We simply imported manufacturers from other parts of the world to come and work here.
Yes.
And it's only our people who knew how to move a sewing machine and people who knew how to do manual menial work that actually benefited. So the AGOA program didn't achieve what was supposed to achieve.
Yes.
So in the absence, right now, Kenya Pipeline Company is still in court with one of the subcontractors. Why? Because they claim they actually did some technical work which was required with the pipeline and the piping and what have you and the welding and so forth.
Yeah.
But that was because we didn't have the expertise. And yet we have institutions that could have been upgraded to do this. So long as it's a discussion, we can have even 150 special economic zones, but not much will change if the training doesn't go full circle, where it starts with CBC, tertiary, college, university, the whole caboodle. Because when you have that sort of training, people then get attached to institutions where these things are done. So they do know, whether it's in country or outside the country. Now, you advise businesses. You understand the country, because you can't advise businesses without understanding the country. What would you say is the government's intention? Because that's clear. But how do we know that this intention will become a reality? Because so long as it's an intention, the archives of all our ministries are full of these projects, full of findings, full of to bursting.
Yes.
But we're still where we are.
Yeah.
Question: what should be done? You are the strategist and you're the person who advises.
By the government or by the...
No, when you advise individual businesses, it enables them to also talk with the government, because the decisions and the policies that influence their lives come from government.
What I look at in this country, because mostly when you talk about unemployment in this country, it's something that is really hyped. But when you look at unemployment in this country, I always say that the biggest challenge with this country is not necessarily unemployment, it's also a skills gap. In terms of those people who are looking for employment, are they capacitated to? I always say that there is unemployment until you are looking for an employee, especially a specialized technical person. You can really suffer looking for somebody to do. In fact, I always say sometimes I'll sit in my office on a Saturday to interview so many people, almost 20 people or 30, but you don't get the skills and experience that you desire, because our schools and tertiary educations have been converted into businesses, whereby there is no value that is being transitioned into the students. So you realize that what we need to do to address the economy, and I like what you're saying, because what we are teaching in schools is people to be to look for an employment, but not necessarily with the solutions, just to be paid. Because people say that employment is like a reward. It's not like an opportunity for you to put your skills into practice. That's why people are hopping from one job to this, because they're not passionate and they're not endowed with certain skills. So what is required is to ensure that now, and this should be, I know it is part of the government institution, especially when I look at the competence-based curriculum, which actually the effect is going to take a long time. But of course, capacitating our tertiary institutions to ensure that they are able to offer people with employable skills and also teach them on how to run businesses. Because business, in terms of running a company in this country, you learn by yourself. Personally, I learned how to run a company by myself and from reading books and trying to travel and benchmark with various.
You get in there and you swim.
Yeah, and of course, even as you learn, you are whipped by the government in terms of taxes, in terms of compliance, infrastructure, but even the kanjo and all that. They'll have to pursue on that. So we need to actually create an enabling environment whereby the locals are mentored how to run this industry. We're not just going to celebrate Microsoft, whatever companies, Google, coming in this country, because even when multinationals come, they don't come to help us. They come for profits.
Do you encourage your business partners, the people whom you advise, to partner with industry and commercial entities? Because in the absence of this partnering, what we're talking about becomes very difficult to achieve. Do you encourage them?
Yeah, of course, we encourage what we call the strategic alliances. And strategic alliances. Part of way of learning from foreigners is creating strategic alliances and partnerships, especially for manufacturing. And I know there's a lot of manufacturing companies in Kenya, which we have advised. They have created like contract manufacturing contracts with the foreigner companies, and therefore there is transferability of skills. But the challenge we have is getting now locals to work and partner with those people, because then it calls for a very long time of mentorship. So what I advise the local entities and businesses is to create strategic alliances whereby they need some skills transfer. At the same time, if they could do local trainings, especially on-job training, it is becoming now of paramount importance. If you want to actually grow in any sector in this country, you have to create your own localized training so that you're able to impart skills, because these skills are not readily available from school and all that. So you have to create your own corporate training to impart these skills so that you're able to move to the next level.
Which becomes a costly thing. I mean,
it's very costly.
I shouldn't be running a business where I'm doing training.
Yes.
I should be getting qualified staff, skilled staff, come work. Okay, you're gaining onboard, on-job experience, but that's it. I shouldn't be having to pay Ronald to come and conduct some training for my staff. Where do professional organizations, such as, I'm sure you belong to the Institute for Certified Public Accountants of Kenya, or the Certified Public Secretaries, where do they come in making sure that as these people are graduating, or as they're becoming CPA 1, 2, 3, CPA K, you're actually getting the necessary skill that is needed for the job market?
Of course, for professional organizations, they have a very limited role. Their role mostly is advocacy and, of course, regulation of the profession, people who have already been trained. But I've seen some institutions coming up very, very strongly to actually condemn the education system and even attempt to regulate some education institutions, which is not forthcoming, because you see, for universities, they are regulated differently by the Commission
Board.
The Engineers Board has come up very, very to try to manage that education for engineers. Otherwise, engineers will become irrelevant if we are importing all the engineers. So I believe the professional institutions have a role in terms of advocacy and, of course, to give feedback to various training institutions. But at the same time, the regulator has a primary role to ensure that these courses that are being trained are actually, and I like what the Ministry of Education said recently, especially the Makoha-led team. They say that we're going to only give students to universities if they prove the employability of their graduates. So you cannot have a university that is churning graduates out of the university and these graduates are unemployable. So that the competition among universities should be what is the rate of employment of our graduates, rather than how many have we churned and how much money have we made.
And how many courses?
How many courses have I like that initiative. It is, if it's actually implemented to the full, you'll realize that there might be some bit of transition. But at the same time, even in structuring this courses, there must be a lot of partnership, the way you said, partnership between universities and also industry and the manufacturing companies. What skills do they require? Can they partner to send even some local students out of the country to learn from the best and come and implement this locally. That partnership will help to actually spur the industry. Yes.
Ronald, thank you very much for joining us today. Ronald Bossi, he is a finance and tax expert. He's a group managing partner at Ronald's LLP. We'll be talking about economic growth in the country. And I like what you've just said about, look at our tertiary institutions. Are we getting just diplomas and certificates, or are we getting proper skill? Even if you go to the EPZs, they'll complain. We actually don't have seamstresses in this country. Seamstresses. I'm sure, City, people who are in the fashion industry. They complain about the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
They do.
Sims mtu wa sharahani.
They do.
Ngumu. Getting someone who can just cut the patterns.
Oh, and that is even harder.
Thank you very much, Ronald, for joining us.
Thank you.
I'll come again soon.
I really appreciate for your invitation and look forward to doing this again next time.
Thank you.
Asante.
Yeah.
Keep it here for more conversations coming up in the next hour. At 8 o'clock, we'll be speaking to former president of the Law Society of Kenya, who's an aspirant for Westlands constituency. We'll be talking about the IEBC requirement for gender and also this whole conversation about integrity and those who will be cleared by the IEBC. This is coming up in the 8 o'clock hour. Have a very good morning. It's actually 8 o'clock now.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
Good morning, this is Nito. I'm Dennis Aseto. Westlands Member of Parliament Tim Wanyonyi will be defending his seat under the Orange Democratic Movement Party ticket in the August polls. This is after his main challenger Michael Guma stepped down in his favour.
This was not an in-fight, it was just a matter of clarification.
I think we are ready to go. As Tim Wanyonyi and all my colleagues, those who ran in Westlands, Mike Kumo here, there are others who are not here, but I have all agreed that we are going to support one position for the party to win and also for the coalition to win.
According to the party's Director of Elections, Junaid Mohammed, the decision came following a consultative meeting chaired by the party leader Raila Odinga, adding that the two will work together to ensure that the seat is retained by ODM. The decision by Gumo came days after he had moved to court to challenge ODM's decision to nominate Wanyonyi. Now, Azimio presidential candidate Raila Odinga has promised to improve infrastructure in the sports sector if elected president in the August 9th elections. Odinga, who joined fans in Kasarani Stadium to watch the Mashemeji derby between Gor Mahia and the AFC Leopards, has also promised to boost the economy. Meanwhile, deputy presidential hopefuls in Azimio Peter Kenneth and Sabine Shege urged the youth to turn out in large numbers on August 9th and elect the leaders from the Azimio outfit. President Uhuru Kenyatta was present to watch the match that ended 1-1. Now, the county government of Nakuru has unveiled a mobile app to help in the treatment and management of diabetes and hypertension. Healthcare services incorporated in the digital system dubbed Empower Health, created through a partnership between the devolved unit, the Ministry of Health, Novo Nordisk and Medrontech. Labs include consultations, tests, treatments and monitoring of the important medical conditions according to the national and best practices guidelines. County Director for Administration and Planning, Dr. Benedict Osore, said by improving coordination between physicians and patients, the app will enable more customized care, which he noted has vital with regards to managing diabetes and hypertension. Now, the government has cited climate change as a key threat to wildlife conservation efforts in the country after a disclosure that a record 78 elephants succumbed to the ravaging drought that swept through Tsavo Conservation Area in 2021. Tourism Cabinet Secretary Najib Balala said adverse effects of climate change have cascaded into the conservation sector and thereby presenting a significant challenge to the gains made by the government in preservation of wildlife in protected and non-protected areas. The CS said the government had put robust measures in place to mitigate against such risks. Now, the National Drought Management Authority has distributed 5,600 bags of livestock feed pellets to help reduce the devastating effects of the prolonged dry spell being felt in Mandera County. The food pellets rich in vital minerals additives will last approximately 2 weeks due to the high number of animals estimated to be over 300,000. The animals in question include cattle, sheep, donkeys, goats, and camels. The multi-million Naivasha wholesale market will address the issue of marketing and storage of fresh produce once complete in 2 months. The 400 million shillings facility that is being constructed by Nakuru County Government is expected to offer direct employment to over 1,000 traders. The market that is in the second and final phase is expected to reduce wastage by over 80% by providing cold stores for the traders, according to Nakuru Governor Lee Kinyanjui. The county is currently constructing 20 markets as a way of supporting the farmers and traders. The government has allocated 1.95 billion shillings to construct Kasikeu and Mikiuni bridges along Sultan Ahmud Kasikeu Kiambeke Road that travels Kilome and Kaiti constituencies in Makueni County. The contract that has been awarded to Kabuito Contractors Limited, and the company is currently mobilizing equipment in a bid to start the works that will take 2 years to complete. He said during the County Development Implementation Coordination Committee chaired by Makueni County Commissioner Gilbert Kitio in his boardroom in Mote. Now, Nigeria's airline are to stop domestic operations from today in protest at the spiraling cost of jet fuel. It has risen almost fourfold this year, which is unsustainable according to the airline operators of Nigeria. The hikes have been triggered principally by Russia's invasion of Ukraine at the end of February. AON, which operates Nigeria's 9 domestic carriers, said the airlines had been having to subsidize services over the last 4 months. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Assetto. Good morning.
.5 Spice FM. Kisumu.
Blue Highway taking hit of traffic this morning, and we're looking at going into the CBD out towards Westlands today. Quite packed already. Jogo Road started early, going out towards Lusaka, and then on the other end, Likoni, and then onto the Likoni interchange on Mombasa Road. And some traffic then heading out towards Southern Bypass, but nothing to worry about. Southern Bypass clear and free all the way through into the city. If you're going the long way, you might bump into Langata Road where there's some traffic as well, spilling over towards Rilo Dingo Way onto Ngong Road, but nothing too painful, at least not at this point. Into the CBD, coming off the Thika Superhighway, quite the thing this morning. Bumper to bumper traffic all the way through and through, and we're looking at in and outbound traffic on Kiambu Road as well as Limuru Road. Coming out of Limuru, Westlands, that whole Muthaiga area, quite a lot of traffic this morning. We are in traffic hour proper this Monday. Likely to see a bit of a sprinkle in Nairobi later, but we'll keep an eye on things. Where are you stuck? A flurry of accidents have taken place this morning. Folks, please be careful. Let us know what's going on in your neck of the woods. Let's talk on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up,
7 minutes after
down.
8. Good morning.
This
How are
is
you
the
doing? Welcome to
Situation
the
Room.
Friday of Kenya's
The
biggest conversation. This lovely Monday morning, we are live on Spice FM. We are live online, Spice FM KE on YouTube and Facebook. We're also live on KTN Home for the next 1 hour. It's the 9th day. We are still in March. It's 2022. So yes, there's a lot of excitement and people saying, okay, the expressway is going to be launched on Saturday on a trial basis. This was announced by the president yesterday. Says from the 14th, it's 14th, right?
14th, yes.
Yeah, the expressway will be open for public use on trial basis. We need to understand what this trial basis is.
Is it
Is it trial free, half rate? Is it?
Or just try and see, then come pay later.
What if you're not happy? Can you ask for? Sijapenda your trip. Nirudishe pesa yangu. Can you ask for your?
I think I understand.
What does it mean?
For you, it is free. It's your car that pays.
We also then need to have another conversation. You see, we are stuck in March because of several things. First of all, the president had promised that he promised this on the 12th of December, that by the end of the first quarter, we'll have seen a further reduction of power bills by 15%. And then also towards the end of December, he said in March, he's going to drive on the expressway, but not just the expressway, from the road between Machakos Junction and Mlolongo, and then get onto the expressway, get off at Westlands, go on from Westlands all the way to Rironi. That whole stretch of road should be completed in March. So if the expressway alone is opened for trial basis this Saturday, can we cross over into April if the other two have not been met?
No.
We have a lawyer in the studio, former president of the LSK and aspirant for Westlands constituency, Nelson Harvey. Good morning.
Good morning, Latiff.
You can help us
Muga
with this quagmire.
Well, Charles Dickens wrote this book, Great Expectations. I don't know whether President Uhuru Kenyatta has ever read that book, Great Expectations. But, I'm not fond of criticizing those to whom responsibilities have been given, but an objective evaluation is often necessary. The initiative to create this expressway is a good initiative, but was it well planned? Has he taken into consideration the important issues that underlie the construction of such a major road? There could be a hurry on his part to launch this expressway. And perhaps the reason why it is indicated to be on a trial basis is because it's not ready for launch. That is my understanding of this entire trial process.
So maybe we can cut the man some slack and say, all right, okay, the full, we haven't got into the full realization of this, but just because there is now at least some movement on the expressway, we can cross over from March to April.
Do you see your problem?
Not jumping into May.
Do you see the problem?
What? Mediocrity.
When they say they're going to build a road for you, then you say, well, at least they've put, what's that thing? They've put Maram.
Yeah.
So at least we can use it like that. Meanwhile, the initial promise was that they were going to put up a road with tarmac and all the signs and make it fit for use. But you say, okay, let's just accept. At least they have tried, Abi.
Have they not?
Tried. The building of a road isn't one of those undertakings where you try. You either build the road or you don't, okay? It's like someone telling you that, this lady is just a bit pregnant. You can't be a bit pregnant. You are either pregnant or you are not. So, this issue of cutting the person I would cut slack for is the president. Because the president is advised. But here, we talk about buyers beware. Here, president beware. When Kera and all these fellows who are supposed to be in charge of roads advise you, send other people to evaluate what they're telling you. Because usually they will spin a really tall yarn for you in the hope that they will please you and make you feel happy, and yet what they're actually doing and what needs to be done is very far from the truth. So the president ends up looking bad, and yet he's relying on evidence that he has been, on advice that he has been given. Look at these roads which aren't marked, still killing people, accidents are still being caused. It rains, this super express highway is like a water collection point. My friend, when it drops down on your car, you actually think it's going to shatter the roof and the windscreen. Surely, I don't think the plan...
They've sorted out the gutters.
Where?
On the road.
With
on the
plastic
expressway.
pipes?
Where?
What do you want? Metallic pipes? Six gutters, buana.
No, it should have been done.
See, Eric, your attitude is good and forgiving and understanding. What was in the original plan? Are they telling us that is how this thing was planned from the beginning? And then There are these green signs, which are supposed to tell you, indicate you turn left or right. They're microscopic. Unless you're 3 meters away, you can't tell. You can see some green-looking thing. You don't know whether it's left or right or up or down.
On the expressway itself?
Yes. Look at roads that seem to have had plan. Look at, for instance, as you're coming on that thicker superhighway. Those signs are huge. You can see them from far. You can actually make a decision as you're driving. These ones, you will be hard-pressed to make a timely decision as to where to go. The only things that seem to be clear are those red embossed Southern Bypass. And then on the other side, again, Southern Bypass. And then in one section is Southern Bypass with one S. Now, those ones you see very clearly.
Okay, City. Okay, this hour. El Presidente, today you're not dressed in your usual form. What's up? Are you going to court after this? Or this is now practicing how you shall change when you become a Mheshimiwa?
You know, the business that I'm engaged in right now requires versatility. Yeah, when I'm required to be in an area where I will be working in the market, speaking to Mamambogas and the border riders, I need to be in an attire that is befitting, one that is conducive for that environment, one that makes me reachable and understandable. Today, I deemed it proper to speak to the elites, the semi-elite, the middle class and the upper class, the people who ordinarily may not find propriety in participating in elective politics, but who have the intellectual wherewithal to influence policy, to influence the choices of leadership, and who must be involved. I'm talking about Ndu here, I'm talking about Elder Muga, I'm talking about the influencer, Latiff. I don't want you to feel isolated when I'm here.
It's 9 o'clock.
Midnight tonight, Nelson. Yes. IEBC has said, political parties, please bring the list of your nominees. And we want them to conform to the High Court order and to the law that people who are seeking elective office, we have to have gender balance, not more than 2/3 of the same gender. They had already spoken about this earlier and said, you know what, there was a case that was taken to court by Katiba Institute in 2017. There was a High Court decision and there was a High Court order that ordered political parties to have in place mechanisms that ensure that more gender balance aspirants participate in their nominations, and basically, let's just say, more women aspirants come out for nomination, and therefore more women are nominated, and you ensure that there's a balance in the number of nominees that you have in your party process. The IBC was ordered to make sure that this is enforced by looking at the nomination. Now, there has been hue and cry, left, right, and center, that political parties maybe did not do this, and that's why they are afraid that IEBC may reject their list. And if it's rejected, it means that even somebody like yourself, who has an UDA nomination certificate for Westlands constituency, will also be rejected. All of you, baby, bathwater, karai, gone. What do you make of that?
Yeah, it speaks to what Elder Muga has just alluded to. There are certain enterprises that do not accommodate trial and error approaches. Where did the problem begin? The 2/3 gender principle was entrenched in the Constitution. It was intended to ensure that there is gender equity and parity. In 2011, an advisory was given by the Supreme Court on the time frame of implementation. The last date of implementation ought to have been in August 2017. Where are we now? We don't have 2/3 gender implementation laws. Parliament itself is not 2/3 gender compliant. The executive is not 2/3 gender compliant, an issue that the court has pronounced itself on. Now, is it proper for the IBC to take the position that it has taken, which it seeks to implement within the next few hours? Yes and no. my premise is that an absurdity will arise if IBC maintains that hardline position. I say so advisedly, because when Justice Chacha Mwita gave those declarations, he was quite clear. It was incumbent upon political parties to ensure that within their regulations, they have an elaborate framework to ensure two-third gender principle compliance when they are conducting the nominations. But more fundamentally, IBC was directed to put in place an administrative mechanism to ensure that the nomination process is two-third gender principle compliant. Has IBC put in place that administrative mechanism? No. Look, IBC behaves like that dog that barks when it sees the master and confuses the thief for the owner of the homestead. Therein lies the problem. There is another facet to this problem, which may inure to the benefit of the political parties. You remember in September 2020, the Chief Justice gave an advisory to the President to dissolve Parliament for two reasons. One, because Parliament itself was not two-third gender compliant in its constitution. And two, Parliament had not put in place laws to effectuate that principle. What happened? Parliament and the Attorney General went to court, the High Court in particular, and this matter was in the process of being determined when Parliament again rushed to the Court of Appeal and stayed the entire process. Now, if you look at it from that perspective, you may find there may be no merit in the position that is being taken by the IBC for now, because the penalty for failure to comply with the two-third gender principle was set out in the Constitution. Dissolution of Parliament, and it was to be perpetual until two-third gender parity and equity is attained. So, in my honest view, IBC is engaging in a game of intellectual idleness.
But come on, you've said that they were given an order to ensure that there is application by the political parties of the same court order.
Yes.
When you talk about administrative mechanisms, what, in your opinion, would that be? Is tonight not an administrative mechanism? Or making sure that you've put in a sieve?
No, not really. If you are required to ensure that there is school uniform for the boys who attend Bukibis institutes for the sons of African gentlemen, then you need to have a place, an outfit where those boys will be given school uniform. What IBC ought to have done is this. When it was gazetting the time frames, when it was setting in place mechanisms to ensure nominations are conducted, it ought to have formulated ad hoc rules and regulations and communicated to the political parties that this is what you need to comply with. I mean, everybody is deemed to know the law. That is a given premise. But when it is your responsibility to ensure that certain measures are taken, then you must of necessity take them. You don't wait until the tail end of a fundamental electoral process and put roadblocks and say, if you don't comply with this requirement, then I'll reject your list. Because it was not given to you the power not only to reject the list, but to effectuate that the list that comes to you is two-thirds gender compliant.
We're essentially saying that because IEBC did not set up this mechanism for which these things should be done, that then political parties also sat back and said, well, since there's no mechanism, we're not going to do anything. It's not the first time we've seen this kind of behavior. And I think it would be also disingenuous on our part to say that, well, because there was no mechanism set up, then political parties didn't do what they knew very well they ought to have done. And they're saying, well, because it doesn't exist, then we also will sit back and wait for this to happen. It seems to me very clear that there is a lack of appetite to actually have it done. And so at the end of the day now, when the screws are being tightened, we're looking for an escape route once again to say, well, we can't do this because when the High Court said this needed to be done, they also said a mechanism had to be set up and it wasn't done. So therefore, we were not able to do our part. I really don't think that's an excuse that then can be relied on to say this is the reason why this did not happen.
I agree with you entirely, Ndu. But the proposition that I've put forth is this. There is failure on the part of active players to ensure that this is done. And the political parties must of necessity take this blame, because the first declaration was directed at them. And to that extent, I cannot stand here in defense of any political party, because the obligation to ensure compliance is on everybody. But we must be pragmatic and avoid a situation where an absurdity will arise. And why do we say so? Does IBC want to put across the position that there will not be an election on the 9th of August 2022 if this is not done? If an election is not conducted, to whose benefit or to whose loss will such a scenario be? These are the germane questions that we must ask ourselves. And IBC was one of the parties in the litigation before the High Court and the Court of Appeal that stayed the implementation of the advisory by the Chief Justice. So, yes, there is a problem. But do we solve this problem by creating more problems, obstacles on the way of an electoral process? Who stands to benefit? Perhaps we may need to ask our the fundamental question. Who doesn't want an election to be conducted? Could that person be using the IBC to put roadblocks to that?
Nelson. I go for a break.
Please ask him.
I mean, when these rulings were put in place, was a timeline given?
Absolutely. Yes, a timeline was given.
Was there an extension of a timeline given?
No. And I want to be forthright with you. It must be admitted that there is a problem. But how do we solve the problem?
But where does the problem lie? You see, I find it, as Ndu has actually mentioned very eloquently, disingenuous, because why is it, for instance, that everything else that is required of political parties is adhered to and nobody kicks a fuss? We've had an issue with this two-third gender rule. We've had an issue. We just can't seem to get it.
Yes.
That is why the last port of arbitration was brought in. That's why the judiciary came in.
Yes.
And they came and did their thing. Now, are you telling me that after this was done, political parties did not understand what it is that was required of them to do? When it wasn't a blanket statement, they were clearly told what to do. They knew what they were supposed to do. So anything that is now being presented is after the fact. And unfortunately, it follows a history of what the political class, this class you want to join, it follows a list of things that they usually do. They want to pressurize the IEBC into a certain corner by bringing in the Mwananchi as the person whose rights are now being violated. And yet they themselves have been doing precisely that with the decision-making process that we elect them to actually put in place on our behalf. This can't be the issue that is going to occupy our time when these same political parties haven't shown us what they have done to try and comply and have failed, and say, we've been trying. This is specifically where we have failed.
Yeah.
And so we'd like you to tweak this so that it helps us achieve it. They want the whole thing done away with. Now that is disingenuous.
I agree with you entirely, Elder Muga. But I've put in place two constructs. One, the penalty for non-compliance is self-detonation, dissolution. Now, these political parties, they are constituted of us, you and I. What is it that was required of us to be done? It was elaborately set out in the judgment. Who was supposed to supervise the doing of this thing? Look, I do not want to speak derogatorily about us Africans, but I think we have a big problem. we have a big problem. We don't like doing the correct thing. We don't like doing the correct thing at the right time. We don't like doing it fast. And that is the reason as to why, despite your subtle objection as to the caliber of individuals that I'm joining, the political class, it is imperative that we get in there so that we do the right thing. You remember when we demanded that Parliament must be dissolved? Many made jest out of that serious enterprise. Now it has come to ban us. And I want to agree with you. We must do something. But what is it that we must do? We cannot stop the election.
Why not?
Because of that failure.
But this is the problem, Nelson, and this is what we're seeing. I really take issue that sometimes, in order to get something done, you have to let it get to the ground.
Yes.
Because it has been shown time and time and time again that given a very long rope, the tether will just continue lengthening. And people are going to take advantage of the fact that nobody is putting in these stops that we are talking about. And until and unless something that you're calling an absurdity, until the root foundation is shaken completely, people are not going to take it seriously. And that's what we have. Time and time and time again. Things slip through under the door. In fact, not under the door. The door is wide open and things are flying right in. Anybody can do whatever they want. And then we say, well, in order to avoid a terrible situation, let's just allow this to slide through. How long will
a situation
things
which they
slide
have
through
participated
and things are going to the dogs? Yeah.
Fine. Now, let me put this into perspective. My current read now is called Noise, a Flaw in Human Judgment. You need to isolate certain things that tend to obscure human judgment. What is obscuring the judgment insofar as this matter is concerned? All of you are in agreement that we must do something a little bit drastic. Remember, the drastic thing that ought to have been done was the dissolution of Parliament.
Yep.
You understand?
Yep.
Now, the drastic thing that you contemplate being done right now is not to have an election. You understand? If that is to be done, Elder, the individuals who have failed in the responsibility of putting in legislation will continue remaining in office, both at the executive and the legislative level. Is that which we want? Is that which will provide a solution to that problem? I don't think so. But going forward, the responsibility to ensure that there's two-thirds gender compliance still rests in the parliament that will come into place after this parliament. So that we need to be more vigilant as we elect representatives to the National Assembly and to the Senate. Are they men and women who can be held accountable to that which they promise, to that which is required of them under the Constitution? This is the fundamental question. And then whilst they are in office, ensure they meet the two-thirds gender principle, because it was supposed to be in perpetuity until attained.
Let me ask you this
Let's
question.
take a break, then you can
We take
ask
a break, then I can
Yes,
answer the question?
please.
Right.
It's 8:30. Nelson Harvey, former president of the Law Society of Kenya and aspirant for the Langata parliamentary seat, is here with us in the studio. We're talking about the requirement. There's the two-thirds gender question. Did I say Langata?
You did.
You did.
Westlands.
Oh, no, I meant Westlands.
The Westlands of Langata.
We can see the confusion.
Yeah.
Right.
Westlands.
Westlands constituency. He wants to be a member of parliament for Westlands constituency. He's a nominee for UDA party. True? So we've got a nomination, UDA?
Is a candidate.
We've got a nomination certificate?
Yes,
yeah,
he's a
UDA.
candidate of the UDA party.
Okay, the candidate of the UDA party. Will this go full to the election if UDA has not met the two-thirds gender principle? He'll also tell us about that. We're also going to talk about the integrity question, which is the other thing that people are asking. So will IEBC just be clearing everybody left, right and center, despite public knowledge of their shortcomings when it comes to integrity? These are the questions we are asking. Nelson, you've heard about the new Samsung A series? There's the A33, the A53, the A73. They're basically cameras coming in.
What are those? I only use a lower phone, an iPhone.
We will talk about how you can actually upgrade from this into the brand new Samsung A series, okay. A33, A53 and A73. Tell him about the cameras.
As you're riding around Westlands and you're looking for an opportunity to capture those moments,
yes.
This is a camera masquerading as a phone.
The Samsung?
Yes, and the experience is what they're calling awesome. You will be able to do so many things at the same time. The experience is unbelievable. And you know how you get so busy? 2 days, you don't have to charge this phone. Okay. I'm telling you, it's fantastic. You might want to give it a think.
Fine.
I
may discard my Luo phone to this.
If it falls off your bike,
then
you
I
can
take
actually go to
Samsung, isn't it?
Yeah. And if it falls off your bike when you're doing this and you crack your screen within a year of having bought it, you can go to the care center. They will fix your phone for free.
Okay. A viable option.
We'll talk, huh?
Luo Elder, you can process. I'm going for Samsung. I'm done with this damn thing.
We'll be back shortly. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
No, this wheelbarrow, how can you give people wheelbarrow? His party symbol is an umbrella. Is he distributing umbrellas in McQueen?
Have you been told if we don't lock between 10 to 4, this is what we're saving?
You try and call them, the same person who was in your house every day, because they know you are influential and you will give them votes. Call them after 1 month and see if they'll pick up their phone.
Don't tell your member of parliament that you want him to come and build a school, you want him to come and do a hospital. That is not the work of the member. Now that we have devolution in this country, these resources should go to those devolved units.
You have to have strong, independent institutions. And I mean, you have to have police who has the right to take the biggest town in the country and question, why did you do this and that, and send them to court if necessary.
Joel Inkericho, good morning.
Salama sana, habari ya asubuhi.
Salama kabisa. Mbunge wako ni nani?
Anaitwa Silvanus Maritim, hapa ni Ainamoi.
Silvanus Maritim, Ainamoi.
Yes. Sasa ile chuma nampambia yeye nini? Amalize aende. Asante sana.
That's it. Cloudy conditions in Nairobi this morning. We'll see highs of 26 and lows of 17. 18 degrees, mostly cloudy in Nakuru. Highs of 25. We'll see highs of 25 as well in mostly cloudy Eldoret. And Nyeri this morning is cloudy at 19. Highs of 25 and lows of 14. The sun is still out in Mombasa at 27. Highs of 31 and lows of 25. And we're looking at light rain in Malindi at 26. Highs of 31. 28 will be the high in a mostly cloudy Kisumu. Kakamega is cloudy at 22. And we'll see highs of 28. It's raining out in Kampala. There were thunderstorms earlier. That has abated. Highs of 27 and lows of 19. Dar es Salaam sunny at 26, highs of 32. And we're looking at sunny conditions at 6 now in Johannesburg, highs of 18 and lows of 5. And it's mostly clear in Lagos at 25, highs of 31. 32 will be the high in a rainy Kinshasa, currently at 23.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM.
Traffic still remaining heavy coming out of Westlands, and we're looking at Uhuru Highway, then joining the CBD out towards Westlands, coming off of Chiromo. That's doing its thing. Ring Road Westlands pretty heavy this morning, and we'll see that feed off onto Chiromo and then out towards Wangari Maathai Way. Traffic coming in the opposite direction from the Thika Superhighway, not so bad, just past the Utali Drift, and it still remains heavy there. And Kiambu Road is also looking quite heavy, but that will ease off as we go along. Monday morning doesn't look too bad. The one thing that has been affecting folks has been the number of accidents this morning. What's going on, guys? Can we take it easy at least for a couple of hours? Coming off Jogo Road, just past Hamza, out towards the Makadara train station. Traffic still continues there. Landis Road, really heavy now. Collection of traffic there as you get to the Kamkunji roundabout. Rilo Dingo Way taking off some traffic from Langata Road, and that still continues this morning. Coming off Mombasa Road, not too painful. Let's keep it just that way. Let's talk on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
"24 minutes to 9, Kenya's biggest conversation continues. Eric Latiff, Okoh, CT, Muga, Nelson Harvey, who wants to be the next MP for Westlands constituency, who was the president of the Law Society of Kenya. And you were leading it as the brave new bar, right? Yes. During your tenure, Nelson, as president of LSK, you went to court several times on several of these matters, especially the two-third gender principle.
Yes.
And when the Chief Justice then, David Maraga, issued his advisory to the president, you were among those who said, yes, thank you, Mr. Chief Justice. I agree with you that Parliament should be dissolved, as indicated in the Constitution. If we go, now that we passed the first deadline of 2017, we have not implemented any law that talks about how we can achieve the gender equation in the next Parliament, after the next general election in August. If we go into an election that does not produce the two-third gender balance in the National Assembly and in the Senate, and let's say you are elected as a member of Parliament for Westlands, you are among those, Parliament should be dissolved. True or not?
True, absolutely.
It should be dissolved.
Yes.
So why do we want to get into an election if we can look at it now and see the nominations, the nomination list, the way it's coming from the political parties? It's clear we are not going to achieve this. Why not say that IEBC should do everything that it can to make sure political parties meet this, so that we don't have to go into an election and then have to dissolve Parliament and go into another election? Why not do it now?
It should be done now. But can it be done now? No.
Why?
Because there is no legislative framework to enable it to be done. There has to be a legal formula to ensure that there is 2/3 gender parity and equity. And as you are very much aware, 2 bills were brought before the National Assembly. They were not passed because the required constitutional majority was not attained. Now, you can't do it ad hoc. You can't do it without a legal framework. And IBC really does not have the power to do it. IBC can only oversight the doing of this thing. And I've said, much as there was a declaration directing political parties to comply with the 2/3 gender rule, that declaration requires a legal framework which is not yet in place.
So are you suggesting, sir, that whatever it is that IEBC has put in place and has relayed to us publicly can simply be ignored?
It's not even to be ignored. It's not there. It's an exercise in intellectual futility. And IEBC knows this very well. What will they do? Will they stop the conduct of an election? They can't, because the conduct of the election is time-bound, is constitutional time-bound.
Is it only time-bound, or are there other factors that must be complied by for that time-binding to actually come into force?
Yes, there are other factors. Yes. But the compliance of these factors is what we have now just seen has been put to bay by a court order, by the Court of Appeal. And I want to speak to you. I want to speak to many other elites, semi-elites, middle class and upper class.
Why only them? Are you saying that the so-called common Mwananchi cannot understand this discussion?
I've spoken to the common Mwananchi. They have understood this discussion.
No. This particular conversation doesn't just cover your constituency. This conversation covers the entire country. So are you saying that those whom you haven't spoken to will not understand what we're saying?
You know, Elder Muga, as the president of the Law Society at the national platform, had spoken to all people in the country. They incorporated this idea. But we need you people who put money and ideas into circulation to understand what we're talking about. We need individuals with competence in parliament to bring change. Change does not just come haphazardly by guesswork, by prediction. It has to be premeditated. It has to be deliberate. And it's for that reason that having failed to ensure optimum 100% change through litigation, through my tenure as president of the Law Society, I took a deliberate decision to get into parliament. To do what? First and foremost, to ensure that the 2/3 gender principle is actualized. And as day succeeds night, if the people of Westlands find it prudent to elect me as their member of National Assembly, my first business will be to ensure that the appropriate bill is drawn, is tabled before the National Assembly, is debated, it's lobbied to ensure that the women of Kenya get their place in elective and appointive offices. Because the people who are hitherto responsible for this assignment have failed and have failed considerably. And I want you to speak to the women of Kenya. I want you to speak to the women of Westlands. Speak to your mother, speak to your wife, speak to your sister. They need to see the propriety of change. Look, the turnaround of legislators is estimated to be at 80%. So 80% of these legislators will go home. But who do you replace them with?
Ndugu, I want to engage you in a little Game of
Thrones.
No, not thrones. It is more imagination. I want you to cast your imagination.
Yes.
Where a time-honored tradition by government and institutions of government is put into play. And in this instance, disobey a court order and just do what you like. If IEBC determine they're not conducting the elections, what do you think will happen? This is for imagination's sake, for purposes of discussion. If the IEBC decide, folks, we are not going to be taken lightly, we are not conducting the election, what will we do?
Now, if IEBC does not conduct an election, then what?
Or they conduct the election with those who have complied.
Well, let's start with the first premise. They don't conduct the election.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Then the president will remain in office.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. There will be a lacuna in the executive.
How?
There will be a lacuna in the legislature.
How?
Because their term of office will have come to an end, but there will be no opportunity to exit because there is no transition. That's the absurdity that we're talking about. What if they conduct election with select parties that are claimed to have been
compliant?
Yes. It's another absurdity. Which are these parties? For instance, let's talk about Westlands. Have those parties fielded a candidate in Westlands for MP? Have they fielded a candidate for...
Must they?
They must, because over and above the two-third gender question, there's the political right that is given to the people of Kenya to participate in an electoral process, to offer their names for election, to go and cast their ballot. How are you balancing those rights? Because all of them are within the Bill of Rights. So it is a delicate balance which IBC must look into keenly.
It's the same argument that Adan Duale put across. Yeah. But I am looking more at, again, we're still in that realm of imagination, of consequences coming home to roost. This entire discussion follows things that ought to have been done and which were not done. Now, we didn't know what a rerun of the presidential election would be until we had one. So, even in this particular instance, what will we really lose if we don't have elections on the day we're supposed to have it?
Because so the argument that you give, look at it at the other. The same can be argued on the other side. That what would happen if you have this absurdity take place and then you would have no transition? What would happen if you didn't? The thing is that people have seen this kind of behavior whereby you can just ignore things that were put out there. You can just say, well, there was no mechanism, so we're not going to work on it. And I think what this does is that it forces all the parties involved to actually do what they ought, instead of this tomfoolery that we see taking place all the time. That you get so accustomed and conditioned to not doing things in a certain way, and then you can come and argue that, well, you didn't provide the mechanism under which I needed to do this. It's like a drug addict. If you're going to send a drug addict into rehab, you don't say, well, all right, let me give you half of what you used to take on a daily basis and see if you get better. No, cold turkey, you stop it today and you deal with the situation and then you move forward unto healing. You cannot have a situation whereby you say, well, let's give it a little bit more time and see if they will comply. Tradition has shown us that they will not comply. So let's deal with it where it hurts and then we move forward from there. And I think that is one of the only ways that you're going to get things done. Otherwise, you'll be doing this dance of death with, all right, let's see if you will do it tomorrow. And it won't happen. To say that, let's bring in the next parliament and see if they will do it. It will not happen. It won't happen. So why don't we deal with it as we know it, as we see it today? What's wrong with doing that? As they say, basement has no bottom floor. It's the bottom.
Fine.
Let's move up from there.
At one point in time, the people of Libya and the people of Iraq decided we must just get done with Muammar Gaddafi and Saddam Hussein. We just must get done. And before them, many, including the people of France, they just said, we must get done with this king. We must just get done. Well, naturally so, because human beings are just animals. They tend to prefer things being done at the heat of the moment. Is that the solution? It's not the solution. And I must take you back to my primordial question. Who stands to benefit if we do not have an election? Are they not the same individuals who are pushing this BBI enterprise down our throat? They are the same individuals who has been on the way of the two-third gender principle. They are these individuals. We need to remove them from office. You understand? And the only way to remove them from office is through the election. Stopping the election will not benefit us. It will benefit them. They are the status quo.
I also ask the question, who stands to lose?
If?
The very same thing you're saying, the converse of what you're saying. Those who stand to gain are these individuals who are this way inclined politically. Who stands to lose? And don't tell me it's the people of Kenya. The people of Kenya have been losing. That's what we've been doing throughout the last 5 years.
In both cases, they're the losers.
Yeah, we always lose. So that is a condition we're used to. Now, let's discuss our political class. The class you want to join. Yes. Among the political class, who stands to lose?
If we hold an election.
If we don't hold an election. Because he's talked about who will benefit if we don't hold. So I'm asking the question.
Amongst the political class, if you don't hold an election, those who are in office will not lose. They will remain in office. And I want us to eliminate the noise, because the noise are the people currently in the political class, the executive and the legislature. The moment we isolate them from this discussion, then a clear perspective will come out. You understand? Because we are taking the Barnabas approach. We just want somebody to hang on a
Somebody's
tree.
blood,
Yeah. No, it is not a solution. And like Pontius Pilate, I'm telling you, what you want to do is wrong. We may as well wash our hands out of this nefarious enterprise you consider to be the solution. It's not the solution. And that is why the Constitution put in a self-implementing mechanism to remedy this situation. So we need...
What is this mechanism?
Dissolution
of Parliament. Which is also the problem, Nelson. And I started with this second half by asking you that. We go into an election, so you're calling this an absurdity. IEBC cannot or does not have mechanisms or even the muscle to force political parties to have two-third nominees on their lists. Okay, we go into an election, and the election does not produce the gender balance. The first order of business would be to dissolve that parliament.
No.
With Nelson Harvey on board or not, if you are not two-thirds come September 2022, and you are a member of Parliament for Westlands, our first order of business, those of us on this side and those that you've left on the advocacy side, will be dissolve that parliament. We'll want you to go home. Of what benefit is it? I don't doubt when you say that you'd like to get in there and, effect policy and influence change of policy and legislation from the floor of the House. I don't doubt you. But I also sense some feeling of selfishness from your part on this particular point, because you're seeing this is your opportunity to get into Parliament. And this whole issue about a court order, IEBC required to do this and the other, is standing in the way of you getting into Parliament. However, I want to remind you, Nelson, that even if you got into Parliament and the Parliament is not compliant, those same things that were making you march as LSK president to go to Parliament are the same things that will take you home.
Now, let's agree with you for a moment so that we personalize and depersonalize this discourse. Who is Nelson Harvey? Nelson Harvey is a distinguished courtroom lawyer. Why does he want to go to Parliament? He does not want to go to Parliament to better his position. He wants to go to Parliament to better the position of the people of Westlands and the people of Kenya. You understand? No wonder, therefore, if you look keenly in my 4-point agenda, first and foremost is good legislation. You understand? And you must jump into the treadmill. You must get into the conveyor belt for you to start moving. And I can say without any fear of contradiction, if I don't make it to Parliament, or if I make it to Parliament and Parliament is dissolved, I do not suffer any personal loss. I will not lose weight, I will not lose hair, I will not lose sleep. I'll continue being the prominent courtroom lawyer I am and go on with my business. But what about the plight of the people who propel me to seek to go and serve them? The plight will remain unassuaged. You understand? So we must perceive it from that perspective. We must, for once, stop being selfish And this is a requirement of all of us. And I may ask the same question. Why haven't we, as SPICE, discussed this issue before? It's a knee-jerk reaction. And I'm not blaming anybody here, because it tends to be urgent when somebody makes it urgent. IBC should not make affairs of running government as urgent as it deems it to be urgent. No, that's not how it's supposed to be done. We put in place a legislative framework to ensure that there's 2/3 gender compliant. You understand? And then we effectuate it, because this parliament that's supposed to come in August will have a time frame within which to do that. And if it doesn't do that, then it will suffer the self-detonating mechanism of dissolution. That's the solution for it.
Harvey, the mechanism you speak of, has it ever been brought before our parliament? This mechanism that we would need to use in order to ensure that the implementation falls in line and complies with the Constitution. Have this
you know what happened? This bill has been in the House twice. Precisely. At one point in time, and I'm very sad to say this, a majority of women in Parliament had taken a paid-up holiday to go to New York. They were not in the House to debate this bill. So there is a problem. And
precisely.
Yeah, there is a problem. And this problem is not just a legislative problem. It's a problem of the people of Kenya. Who do you elect into Parliament?
It isn't that. Even you today, if you are elected, and the impunity that we've seen being put into play over and over and over, not just with our parliamentarians, but people who have power in this country.
Yeah.
If the consequences of decisions are not seen or are not felt, when you get into Parliament, my friend, we will have the same thing being repeated. And we'll be having the same discussion. Because this Parliament we currently have is just about the most educated, well-informed Parliament we've ever had in this country.
No, you can't be educated, but you're not learned. There's a big dichotomy between the two. And I believe, from my interaction with the three of you, you are highly learned. You have the ability of perceiving issues at a more highly intellectual level. Let me tell you this. I, Nelson, and I, Harvey, has spoken in Parliament more than many of the elected members of the National Assembly. I dare say I've spoken more than the current member of National Assembly for Westlands. So you may go there with your degree, with your education, but your learning, does it better you? Does it give you the capacity to debate, to litigate, to oversight? That is what is lacking in the people you send to Parliament.
No, it isn't so. It's the ease that impunity provides.
Well, I mean,
so you are not incentivized to do anything that may even appear in the slightest difficult or require you to actually do the work that you're supposed to do. You have an alternative path, and that path is what is often chosen. It's a path well trodden. The path less trodden is the one that people do not apply themselves to. You're going to say something.
Because I'm going to ask, the similar thread runs, because here we are saying, we're being fed certain narratives. And, you've spoken up about some of these things very often. But here we are, people who have allegations of corruption and theft, murder against them, and then being allowed to run, again, by the same IBC that we're talking about, the same organizations that we're talking about. Look at, for example, former governor of Nairobi, Mike Mbuvi Sonko, who's being allowed to run in Mombasa as a gubernatorial aspirant. What are we talking about here? The same things that we are saying, 2/3 gender rule, not being paid attention to. The same thread running similarly through this as well. Why are we allowing such things to happen? From a legal point of view, why should that even happen?
The integrity question is twofold. There are those who have been convicted by the courts for certain criminal or corruption offenses. If you've not exhausted the appellate mechanism, then you are entitled to run. There is no problem about that.
Okay, there is a problem. That's the whole point.
It's okay. You see, as a lawyer, I must eliminate noise that is not legal. And you see, part of that noise is the objectivity that may lack if you don't perceive it legally. That is the law. The law is, until you exhaust all the appellate mechanism, you are entitled to your innocence. Number two, and this is fundamental, if you are impeached, you can't run for office.
You can't.
You can't. It's as simple as that. So that if you are a governor and you've been impeached, you stop wasting your time campaigning or presenting your name for nomination. And if for whatever reason somebody accepts the nomination papers of these individuals who have been impeached, then they are the ones that must be held accountable. This one I can say without any fear of contradiction. And I say so advisedly and with a lot of respect, because I've had 2 governors as my clients who have been impeached. But the law must be followed. If they have been impeached, they can't run.
So why do we have this circus playing out in the manner in which it is right now?
Which circus? Has IBC made a decision on that matter? I believe, it's not a matter of belief. I remember the chairman of the IBC made this statement clear about 4 months ago, that if you've been impeached, don't waste your time subjecting yourself to this process. And to that extent, I agree with the chairman of the IBC. Don't waste your time. Don't waste our time. So we clear that premise. If you've been impeached, don't waste our time. If you've been convicted and you haven't exhausted the appellate mechanism, you are innocent. You're entitled to participate in that.
Waste your time, but we will make the decision at the ballot.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And see, that's another aspect of it. For instance, you see, the legal process, and you'll find this in so many writings, the legal process has a way of validating that which is unlawful. You understand? So you need to look for ways to counter
that
at the ballot.
In the next hour, we want to open up the conversation to the public and ask whether IEBC should allow persons with integrity questions to get to the ballot. Because we have already seen them. They're out there, they're campaigning, they're saying, I want to be governor, I want to be member of parliament, I want to be member of the county assembly, I want to be member of the Senate. Should people who have integrity questions be allowed to actually contest in August 9th general election? Former president of LSK and aspirant in the Westlands constituency seat, Nelson Harvey, has been with us. We've been live on KTN Home. Conversations continue on SpiceFM. It's 9 a.m.
Spice up your life. The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM.
This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Deputy President and presidential hopeful William Ruto now says that he will lower fertilizer prices should he ascend into power under major plans he has to revitalize the agricultural sector. The Kenya Kwanza Lands flag bearer said his government will support farmers by lowering the cost of farm inputs such as fertilizer, whose price has skyrocketed in recent months. According to the second in power, the price of fertilizer will be slashed to what it was before the recent spike if he clinches presidency in the general election. Now, leaders from Western Kenya now pushing for ANC party leader Musalia Mudavadi to be picked as Deputy President William Ruto's running mate in the August elections. According to the leaders, Mudavadi has previously served in different government positions, hence is fit to be the next head of state. Bungoma Governor aspirant Zakaria Baraza said it would be a joke for Mudavadi, who has been a deputy Prime Minister and a Vice President, to just be given a Finance Minister position and accept. But as I said, it is time for the country to get a president from another region. Now, Makueni Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr. says Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka should be picked as the Azimio One Kenya's presidential running mate, failure to which the coalition will be in trouble. Then playing the outfit's ongoing exercise of reviewing before selecting a suitable candidate to deputize flag bearer Raila Odinga in his August presidential bid, Senator Mutula Kilonzo said undoubtedly the perfect suit for the role is Kalonzo. According to Mutula, the Azimio running mate selection panel is planning to compromise Kalonzo's fate so that he ends up as Speaker in an Odinga administration, a post he said should be reserved for former Gatanga MP Peter Kenneth instead. Now, Kenya's Foreign Affairs Cabinet Secretary Ambassador Rachel Omamo is in Athens, Greece, ahead of a two-day official visit to the Hellenic Republic. The CS was received by Kenya's ambassador to Italy and Greece Ambassador Jacqueline Yonga. According to the Foreign Ministry, Omamo's visit aims at deepening the long-standing bilateral relations between the two countries. During the visit, Omamo has been scheduled to pay a courtesy call on the president of Greece. Thereafter, Omamo will meet her Greek counterpart, where they will hold crucial talks with a keen focus on areas of mutual benefit to Nairobi and Athens. A gang member is nursing gunshot injuries in a Kisumu hospital, while 4 others have fled after a failed robbery attempt in Kisumu County. After robbing workers of the valuables at Mabati Millers factory in Nyamasaria, the 5 led police on an hour-long chase while eluding arrest. According to the Directorate of Criminal Investigations, the 5 entered the factory and ordered everyone to lie down before ransacking them for phones and cash. Police officers from the Nyamasaria patrol base arrived at the scene after receiving a tip from eyewitnesses, only to find the 5 speeding away in their getaway car. A manhunt is on the remaining 4 who are still at large. Now, police are advising the public to be vigilant and cautious whenever they come across suspicious objects resembling bombs and report to the nearest police station or any local administration officers. This is after a family in Kisumu, Murang'a County reported to police in the area that they had found a suspicious object within their compound. A team of officers from Murang'a County then responded promptly and secured the scene. Upon arrival at the scene where the suspected object was sighted, the officers cordoned the area and enlisted the assistance of the bomb disposal unit. The bomb is believed to be a remnant of the World Wars. Now, with efforts to produce a highly nutritious green fodder for both livestock and poultry, farmers and those interested in venturing into fodder production have been challenged to maximize the hydroponic farming technique. Mary Wanja, who is an administrator and hydroponics trainer at Hydroponics Africa, says that utilizing this modern method to grow green fodder for animals was more advantageous to both the farmer and livestock consuming it due to the nutritional value. Green fodder, Wanja adds, has a high level of carbohydrates, minerals and vitamins which are easily broken down in the respective herbivorous animal digestive system, which is due to the process of germination where all device nutrients are put in the water are all absorbed. And gunmen killed at least 48 people in attacks in 3 villages in northwest Nigeria's Zamfara state. Northwest and central Nigeria have been terrorized for years by criminal gangs who raid and loot villages, steal cattle and carry out mass abductions of residents for ransom. Dozens of gunmen on motorcycles entered the 3 villages in coordinated attacks, shooting people as they tried to flee. The worst hit was Damri, where the gunmen killed 32 people, including patients at a hospital. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. Good morning.
.4 Spice FM.
All right, continuous traffic hour, a few minutes after 9 o'clock. Rilo Dingaway then going towards Gong Road, which incidentally is not too bad today. Gong Road going out towards the city, that looks all right. Coming out of Westland still looks pretty heavy. Ring Road Westland's doing that thing, but then as you connect with Riverside out towards Chiromo should not be too bad. Coming off a thicker superhighway, traffic has greatly reduced, so happy about that. Just past the Utali Drift is where we have a bit of an issue. Many folks complaining about the mess that's going on Kiambu Road today, and there have been way too many accidents for one morning. Thika Road, terrible accident right around Roy Sambo. That happened a few minutes ago, and they're still trying to sort that out. The dual carriageway ends at Karen, coming off Ngong Road. After that is what folks are saying is a nightmare this morning. Hopefully we can wake up from that soon. Other parts of the city where it's an absolute dream is Mombasa Road, and that's not looking too bad today as you're trying to get out into the city. Traffic hour will be over in about a half hour or so. Let's check back around then and see what it looks like. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power. And Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down.
It is
This
7 minutes
is
after
the
9. Kenya's
Situation
biggest
Room,
conversation
the
enters the
only
fourth
way-
hour today, the 9th day of March 2022. Hopefully next week on Monday will be the 9th day of April. Perhaps. Okay? Or the 15th of April. We still have our guest this morning with us in the studio, former president of the Law Society of Kenya, who is the UDA candidate for the Westlands parliamentary seat, Nelson Hawi. But before we continue the conversation and ask you the question, let's hear the day's proverb from CT.
A man's heart, a person's heart, a woman's heart, is not a sack open to all.
Say it again.
A person's heart is not a sack opened to all. What is in your heart is in your heart. It's not for public purview. The public will know what you wish them to know. Yes. Period.
There's no art to tell the mind.
The other things you can guess if you wish, but it's the owner of the heart who knows what is in their heart.
Sometimes.
Good point there.
Sometimes the owner doesn't know.
Sometimes even you're trying to figure out.
Trying to figure out what exactly is going on.
This thing that I'm seeing, what is it really?
Is it in my heart or is it not? Or was it planted here by somebody else? The question that we are asking this hour is with regards to integrity. Should IEBC allow persons with integrity questions to vie for political seats in the upcoming general election? That is the question. We've seen very many people, so former governors who've been impeached, campaigning and saying they'd like to be elected as governors again. Mike Mbuvi Sonko was impeached in Nairobi. He is the Wiper nominee for Mombasa City County, where he's running for governor. We've had other people who have also been impeached, also saying, they want to seek political office. And we asked this question to you, Nelson, before we went to the top of the hour. And he said, yours is categorical and equivocal no. That there's no way these persons who've been impeached, that they can vie in August. The law is clear. Of course, you're not a lawyer. Yeah. The law is clear. But people who have been taken to court on other matters, say corruption related, have a case, the state against so-and-so. You've been convicted. You're a fraudster. You've been fined almost 1 billion shillings.
In fact, you've been sentenced.
Yeah, and also been sentenced. But you've appealed. You cannot be removed from parliament. And you can still vie again to be elected until you have exhausted all avenues of blah, 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 blah. Those things that you guys say. So where do we draw the line between one and the other?
Well, the line is to be drawn in ink, not in pencil, because if it were to be drawn in pencil, then
you can easily erase it.
You can easily erase it. And as we discussed much earlier, and perhaps for progression, if you've been impeached, the impeachment stands until otherwise reversed. It's the converse of the conviction. You are qualified to vie until you exhaust all the available appellate processes. When it comes to a criminal conviction, attempted murder, corruption, and I have the unfortunate history of having acted for most of these people that you're talking about, which is okay because it is my responsibility as a lawyer. As a lawyer, you're entitled to act for anybody, including Lucifer himself, if his or her rights are infringed. But therein is where we draw the line. And it must be understood that the legal process has a way of legitimizing, validating that which is outrightly immoral or illegal. You understand? You may be acquitted of attempted murder, but we know you killed somebody. You understand? You may be acquitted of corruption, but we know, we've seen where the monies have gone. You understand? That is the unfortunate conclusion of the legal process. But are we cocooned as the people by the legal process? No. You have the right of doing that which is right. Because you, as the people, are the ones that the law is made for. You understand? So that if the legal process has sanitized, has legitimized, has validated an individual, and this individual comes home with a loot for homecoming and says he wants to be governor of
XYZ.
He wants to be senator or MP. Say no. Say no, because you know, as Muga said, you know what is in your heart. If your heart tells you this damn fellow is not suitable for MP, just do that.
So then
Stop
can
it
we say
at
that,
the ballot.
So is the integrity index then low across board? Because
it is very low.
If that was the thing, because look, we read a story a couple of months ago about a minister, government minister in another country who resigned because a coffee maker left with her to her new office where it should have remained in the old office. Resigned.
Don't even go far. In the UK, there was this legislator who resigned because I'm told he was watching pornography in the house. You understand?
Yes.
The integrity yardstick, the calibration is so high that once it's brought to the limelight, it may have been hidden in his heart, but when we see it, as Muga says,
that's it.
That's it. But is that what we do in Kenya? No. You guys, you are the same ones who will go for the homecoming. You will cheer, you will dance isukuti to these guys who have pilfered monies.
Or even ask, why on earth should this newly elected leader be driving a small vehicle, for example?
He
Why
deserves
should
a big
they
car.
deserve a big vehicle?
Yeah,
Why are they living in squalor?
Look, for instance, when I go to Westlands, people tell me that, look, stop this PR. Come here with your VX, come here with your X6 or your Mercedes. Of course, I have my VX, I have my VX, I have the X6, you understand?
Expect less.
Yeah, it's mine, you understand? But you see, this is the premise that must be understood. It is acquired out of my hard work as a lawyer, you understand? Now, if overnight, some of these fellows, look at me. Well, I used to be 48 long. I'm this trim. If all of a sudden you see my pot belly bulging and have a big public opinion because I'm pilfering your monies, there is a concern. You get it? A member of National Assembly is paid less than $1 million. Where will you get money to buy a house in Runda, to buy a Mercedes that costs $20 million? These are the questions that you must ask. And it is for that reason that I want to go to the National Assembly, because I don't want to go and acquire anything.
So what's your
I don't
opinion?
want to go and conceal anything.
So what's your opinion here? I mean, there's the law, which, many people have called it many things. It's got its holes in it, right?
Yeah. Like Kika Kimani said, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
So if there's a whiff of any kind of untoward behavior, what's your opinion? You must step down from there. Many. Justice Mumbe Ngugi has said, look, don't access your office if there is this allegation against you, whatever. Again, examples around the world of people who this thing has not even come into the public yet, and people will resign if your name has even been mentioned. So we've agreed that yes, the integrity index is very high. It's low here in many places on the continent as well. It's low. What's your opinion?
No,
if you have,
I must disagree with you on this particular point. We have the legal process, despite its flaws. It is the legal process.
No, that's what I'm asking. Yeah. In spite of the legal process, if you have such a thing against you, if your name has been maligned, right? Even if you have been asked to come and answer a question or two, do you think that folks on this side of the pond, they're not to resign?
No, you shouldn't. I mean, as president of the Law Society of Kenya, there are so many of these individuals full of tomfoolery who demanded that I resign because they didn't want me to do that which I was doing. Where there are processes set up by law to convict you, then they must be exhausted. You understand? It is a personal question as to whether or not you want to resign. If your conviction tells you, look, what I've done is wrong and I can leave office, notwithstanding that the process towards my removal has not been complete, it's your personal decision. You shouldn't compel anybody to resign because he's been charged. No. That would be turning logic over its head.
But should we not be expecting you,
but
morally
Latiff,
speaking?
But Latiff, the problem is not with the person who is in office, because I saw a caricature of a cartoon that removing an African leader from office is the most complex surgery. You got to remove him, but it just doesn't want to get out. You understand? But you cannot lament that he has refused to resign, because assumption into office is periodic. In Kenya, it's 5 years. You understand? You have the opportunity of getting rid of these characters. You understand? Crying that they ought to resign won't give us a reprieve. Let's exercise our power at the ballot to ensure that the individuals who remain in office have the wherewithal, the capacity, the competence, the drive to do that which is required of them in the Constitution and by you as the people. Put aside the Constitution, you as the people.
I agree with you that it starts with the voter. Voter vetting, voters seeing that they are putting persons of integrity into office. If that person, Nelson Harvey, goes to Parliament and halfway, 2 years down your tenure as a member of Parliament, we come to discover from reports by the Auditor General or from other bodies that, for instance, the CDF that Nelson Harvey is a patron of has actually been dished out all the bursaries who are going to people who are relatives of Nelson Harvey's, to the disadvantage of others who are clearly more deserving. And then it comes out to the public. Should we be expecting that, okay, so we are going to wait for another 3 years, then we can remove Nelson Harvey, or we are going to court and start exhausting this, and Nelson Harvey is a very good litigant, he's going to throw this case, all the spanners, and this case will not be concluded in 5 years? Should Nelson Harvey be expected to say, all right, guys, yes, you caught me, mea culpa, I completely agree. I shouldn't have done this. I abused the trust that you gave me. I step aside. Should we not expect Nelson Harvey to say, yes, I made a mistake, and because of that, I want to step aside?
Latiff, if as member of National Assembly for Westlands, it happens that I've pilfered CDF, it happens that I've used 38 million monies meant for bursaries for the people of Westlands that cannot be accounted for. And this is minuted in the auditor's report. I will step aside. I will leave that office. You
Why?
understand? Because I've stolen. Yeah. It's as simple as that. Me, Nelson, and I have it. And I can tell you without any fear of contradiction, because my history speaks very loudly about me. In the time that I held office as president, I was given so many offers. People came to me with bribes, 5 million. I tell them, go with your money. I don't want this money. We will give you 50 million for you to look aside as this bill passes. We'll give you this appointment. I say, I don't need it. You understand? So I can tell you without any fear of contradiction, as member of National Assembly for Westlands, you will not find me culpable of misappropriation of 34 million. Over 3 million that has been used to buy furniture for a school that is not deserving. Yet we have schools in Kangemi, we have schools in Kidogoro that are deserving. You'll not find these improprieties.
Okay.
And if, for whatever reason, you think I'm on the way of the people of Westlands, the people of Westlands have the power of recall. It's provided for in the Constitution and legislation. Recall the damn MP. You don't need to wait for 5 years. And it's this awareness that we need to be put forward to the people of Kenya.
So here we are saying Nelson is somebody of high integrity who will take the step to step aside. When you're sitting in Parliament next to any of your neighbours, the MP for Dagoretti North, South, or Starehe, and the same has happened, will you look to them in the eye and tell them, you know what, the best thing for you to do is step aside?
If you read the book of Galatians, there's this discussion that involves Peter and Paul, because Peter was one of their first disciples. Paul came much in later. It is a contest of leadership. When Paul realized that Peter was wavering on the issue of incorporation of the Gentiles amongst the Jews, Paul told him straight on his face. He confronted him, you understand? So there could have been consequences on the part of Paul, but I believe because of Paul's big personality, which is as big as mine, he was able to prevail. So I will tell my neighbor, the member for Dagoretti North, look, my friend, you've pilfered money. You've got no business sitting with us here. It's an honorable house. You've got to leave. And if you don't leave, we'll look for ways of ensuring that your people know your transgressions. Okay. So, I mean, to answer your question directly, I will tell my brothers and sisters in the National Assembly where they're going wrong. And I've seen this dumbwits in Parliament receive 10,000, 20,000 just to influence a bill, to influence a policy. It's deplorable. This is the caliber of people we don't need. But fundamentally, we need people in Parliament who speak. You can't have a member of National Assembly who has not spoken for 10 years, my friend. The fundamental role of a member of National Assembly is to speak. To speak, to speak, and to speak. Towards what end? Towards good legislation. Towards ensuring that the executive is oversighted. Towards ensuring that there is equitable allocation of national revenue. And fundamentally, infrastructural development in that particular constituency. And I repeat this without any fear of contradiction. I, Nelson Dai Harvey, has spoken and acted in the National Assembly more than even the current member of National Assembly. Spoke about BBI, I spoke about the merger of KQ and
South African Airlines? Or
Airports.
Kenya Airports Authority and KQ. Yeah. We spoke about the curfew. We've confronted these things. And there is this culture of tokenism in many of these constituencies. And it's the culture that has perverted elective leadership in Kenya. Because this guy will come and give you 200 shillings. He'll wait when you are in a bar and send 50,000 shillings. So keep quiet. You keep quiet and suffer for 10 years. Look at Westlands, for instance. We don't have a market in Kangemi. We don't have a market in Mountain View, in Market. Yeah, the problem afflicting the people in low status dwellings, I don't want to call them that term. Yeah, look at Huruma, look at Kibagare, look at Deep Sea. These are slums. They have legal problems. You have an elected member of National Assembly who is a lawyer, for heaven's sake. He can't solve these problems. There is a problem in Westlands. We need it solved. And if these problems have not been solved in 10 years, they'll not be solved in 5 years. And it cuts across, not just Westlands, the entire spectrum of the elected leadership in the National Assembly in Kenya. Be transformative in your views. Don't just benefit from tokenism. You need to see to it that you have leaders who will bring change, sustainable change, not just for now, but for a long period to come.
Do you think that there ought to be lobbying for change of law for some of these things? Because again, it seems as though we are leaving it up to the decision of an individual to say whether they will or will not step aside, or the decision of the person who sits next to them, for example, in the House to say, come on, folks, you cannot be operating in this manner. The same way we are looking at the law pushing from the High Court to the Appellate Court, pushing for this 2/3 gender rule, that's 2/3 gender representation at the nomination level. The same way then we are saying that the law ought to insist on certain things, because left to the whims of individuals, they will not make the integrity decision. They won't.
Absolutely right, Ndu. That's why in the Constitution there is room for anybody, not just a legislator, to bring a petition towards the making of a particular law, towards the repealing of an existing law, towards the amendment of an existing law. And I must emphasize, even if I suffer the folly of repetition, it's incumbent upon you guys in suits, in nice sense, with well-combed hair, articulation in English and Swahili, to embrace the moment, speak to everybody. We need to participate in elective leadership. You understand? Because it's only by doing so that you will approach me, either as a member of National Assembly or in my capacity as a lawyer, to say, we want this petition drafted so that the National Assembly actualizes the 2/3 gender principle. The National Assembly actualizes Chapter 6 of the Constitution, because we, as the three, representative of the interests of the people of Kenya, desire that at the moment, there is no legal framework to demand that you step aside. But we want that to be part of the law. If you're charged for a serious offense, then you must step aside. If that be the law, and we have the capacity to push that to become law, we will do it. But if we are laid back, because I'm an accountant, because I'm a doctor, an architect, a teacher, I earn a good income as a journalist, then the problems are far distanced from me. The problems will come close to you because the proximity margin keeps on reducing. And it has now reduced because, look, we have this argument. Why can't the governor have a woman running mate? Why can't the president have a woman running mate? This will just be lamentations because we make them very late in the day. We have the power of pushing through legislation. We have the power of pushing through policy. And it will be done. And I have no fear. As we always say from our camp, we will not buy fear, we will not take it even if it's given us for free. We don't have any other Kenya. This is the only Kenya that we have. So we must make it right. And we must make it right pretty fast. And I'm one of those individuals prepared to make it right pretty fast.
The question we are asking this morning is, should IEBC allow people with integrity questions to vie in the forthcoming general election? That is what we want to hear from you as well. That's a conversation we're having with Nelson Harvey, who wants to be the next Member of Parliament for Westlands constituency, former LSK President. 0719-012-600. We'll pick your calls after this. And Nelson will even explain to us when he says that according to his reading of the law and his understanding of the law, people who have been impeached should not even contemplate vying in another election. He'll tell us which part of the law says this, and also which one allows somebody who has been convicted as a fraudster, having stolen public funds, but has appealed, which one allows him or her to vie again. Nelson, you have said that, yes, you're willing to have a trial on the A73. That's the best of the new Samsung A series.
Yes.
A lot of information coming from it. It has 4 cameras at the back, all right? A wide-angle camera, depth camera. There's a camera that actually you take, and it takes the greater detail that you can't see from just the naked eye.
And this can be done even when you're in motion, so that I can take photographs on my bicycle or in my car.
In fact, all you need to do in some cases is hold it up and pan it across the different images that you like to take, and it takes them for you in succession.
It's
really fantastic stuff.
Looks like a whole new experience. Then Samsung it is. We'll go for it.
As you move, what we're going to do is we'll hook you up with, in fact, we'll hook you up with the boss himself, Charles Kimari from Samsung. We'll put him in touch with you so you can talk about this phone, how you can get it. I'm sure you can buy for 1 or 2 people who are your friends, very good clients.
Plus, you can even have a discussion about the discount they give to friends and family.
Yes.
Okay. Absolutely. Good.
And you get this one. It's 9:30, Kenya's biggest conversation. It continues. We'll pick your calls after this. Should IEBC allow people with integrity questions to vie in the forthcoming general election? The question has also been posted on our social media. Please post your comments. We'll be sampling some of your comments as well.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM.
Standard Group's Farm Kenya initiative is the umbrella entity for all agriculture-related channels, activities and investments. The media platforms under the Farm Kenya initiative include the Smart Harvest Weekly Pullout in the Saturday Standard, KTN Farmers TV, a 24-hour agribusiness TV station, Maisha Kilimo, a weekly agriculture show on Radio Maisha, AgriTalk on SpiceFM's morning show The Situation Room, and Grind na Agribiz on Vibes Radio morning show Morning Vibes. Find us online at www.farmers.co.ke, an integrated website that creates and aggregates agri-content, hosts a digital marketplace, and wide range of agri-data. Other platforms include specialized events such as the annual Mkulima Expo, quarterly Farmers Kenya breakfast, and dedicated social media platforms at Farm Kenya 254. Farm Kenya, working to secure your growth.
20 degrees and a few clouds here and there in Nairobi. The sun will come out through. Highs of 26 and lows of 17. It's partly sunny at 20 in Nakuru. Highs of 25. We'll see highs of 25 as well in Nyeri, where it's raining currently at 19. And sunny conditions at 20 in Eldoret. Highs of 25 and lows of 14. The sun is out in Mombasa. Highs of 31. We'll see highs of 31 in Malindi. However, it's raining at 27. Kisumu is mostly cloudy at 22. Highs of 28. And we'll see highs of 27 in Kakamega, where it's mostly cloudy, currently at 23. Rain showers in Kampala at 23, highs of 27, and this raining as well at 27 in Dar es Salaam, highs of 32 and lows of 24. 9 degrees and sunny in Johannesburg, highs of 18, and we'll see mostly sunny conditions in Lagos this morning, currently at 25. Mostly sunny at 23 in Kinshasa. I'll go to highs of 32 today, and we'll see highs of 20 in Beijing going into early Monday evening, 20 degrees and sunny. We're looking at sunny conditions at 12 in Paris, highs of 26, and 23 will be the high in London, where it's currently sunny at 9. Coming into Monday morning, still Sunday night in New York, it's 10 degrees, clear, however. We'll see highs of 19 and lows of 9.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. SpiceFM.
Spice up your life.
It continues dying down, though, in many parts. We're still seeing heavy traffic coming off right around Kiambu Road, in and outbound traffic. Gong Road looking much better. Rilo Dingawe is all right for now. Uhuru Highway then going out into the city. We'll see some traffic here and there, but nothing too bad. Uhuru Highway, just before you get to the South Sea turnoff, is where you'll see most of it, but Langata Road has cleared up. This is a good thing. Let's keep an eye through the morning on SpiceFM KE. Talk to us there on Twitter. Text 40127.
Business news with Spice FM.
I'm Dennis Aseto. The Kenya Bureau of Standards has banned the importation of used minibuses, double-decker and large buses into the country. The ban, which takes effect from July 1st, is the latest move by the government to protect and promote local assemblers. However, used passenger microbuses of up to 7 meters overall length shall continue to be imported, but strictly under the country's 8-year rule. Kenya has the third highest production per hectare of tea globally, behind China and India, and is the leading exporter of high-quality black crush tea and Carl teas. The government has now moved after the success and has been encouraging farmers and producers to diversify and embrace other specialty teas that would not only enhance their income but also cut on over-reliance of the black tea, whose prices were relatively low compared to the orthodox teas. The diverse specialty tea lines of purple, green, yellow and white teas have the potential to transform livelihoods and also stimulate competition among producers. Ethiopia recorded 5,856 cyber attacks in the first 9 months of the current Ethiopian fiscal year, which started on July 8th. Solomon Soka, Deputy Director General at Ethiopian Information Security Agency, said his agency managed to foil 97.7% of those attacks. The number of cyber attacks targeting Ethiopia has jumped by 400% compared to the same period of the previous fiscal year. The UK has announced a fresh package of sanctions on Russia and Belarus in response to the invasion of Ukraine, targeting £1.7 billion of trade. The Department of International Trade said new import tariffs will apply to goods including platinum and palladium. It said they will hit Russia's ability to fund the war. Export bans will target chemicals, plastics, rubber and machinery. It takes the value of products subject to the UK sanctions to more than £4 billion.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
23 minutes to 10, Kenya's biggest conversation. It continues with Nelson Harvey, MP aspirant for Westlands constituency, has the UDA nomination certificate. He is the UDA candidate for Westlands and also the former president of the Law Society of Kenya. Should IEBC allow persons with integrity questions to vie in the forthcoming general election? Let's just take a look at Nairobi, for example. Nairobi has had 4 governors so far, okay? in just 9 years. 4 governors. The term of a governor is 5 years. We've had 4. We've had 4. Evans Kidero, Dr. Evans Kidero was the first governor of Nairobi. Then we had Mike Mbuvi Sonko as the second governor of Nairobi. We had the then speaker, Mutura, holding fort for a while. Then we have Anne Kananu as the governor of Nairobi. Of those 4, Evans Kidero has gone to Homa Bay, where he wants to be governor. Mike Mbuvi Sonko has gone to Mombasa, where he wants to be governor. Sonko was impeached from Nairobi. Sonko has several criminal cases in court. How many, Nelson? To the best of your knowledge, about 3 criminal cases. Evans Kidero has several cases as well in court. 2 cases in court. And these all relate to what they did while they were in office. It's not about their personal business or their life. It's related to what they were doing while in office. Should these 2, specifically, let's start with those, should they really be cleared by the IEBC? Is there anything in law that bars the IEBC from clearing Kidero and Sonko and such others, Waitito, from vying?
Governor Sonko and Governor Waitito were impeached. They are barred from running for office under Chapter 6 of the Constitution, in particular Article 73, unless otherwise their impeachment is reversed. Their respective impeachments have not been reversed by the Court of Appeal, so they cannot run for office. Now, Dr. Evans Kidero has not been convicted of any criminal offense. Under the law, he is qualified to run for office. As to whether his running for office finds objection, morally, that's an issue for the voter to decide. It's not a legal question. Yes.
You've talked about the Constitution, and this is Chapter 6 of the Constitution. You've sent me there when we were on a break. So let me read out to the public what you guided me on. So Chapter 6 is on leadership and integrity. Article 75(1) talks about conduct of state officers. A state officer shall behave whether in public and official life, in private life, or in association with other persons in a manner that avoids any conflict between persons, interests, and public or official duties, compromising any public or official interest in favor of a personal interest, or demeaning the office that the officer holds. 75(2). A person who contravenes Clause 1, the one I've just read, or Article 76, 77, or 78(2) shall be subject to the applicable disciplinary procedure for the relevant office and may, in accordance with the disciplinary procedure referred to, be dismissed or otherwise removed from office. 75(3). A person who has been dismissed or otherwise removed from office for contravention of the provisions specified in Clause 2 is disqualified from holding any other state office. Now, we are talking about disciplinary procedures. Impeachment, you say, is a disciplinary procedure.
Yes.
Contravention of 75(1) or Article 76 or 77 or 76(2). 77 is restriction on activities of state officers. 76 is financial probity of state officers and how they're using public money. So, Sonko Waitito impeached. So there you say, Constitution does not even require legislation. Constitution itself already says you don't qualify for any other public office. So cannot vie.
Cannot vie. Okay. No wonder the concept is framed by Justice Mombe Ngugi of financial probity and political hygiene. You become sterile on account of removal from office for financial impropriety. And the thread that runs across the removal of those 2 governors was financial probity. And that removal having been effected, then they are disqualified as a matter of constitutional requirement. I think it should rest there. It is intriguing that you'll find crowds milling around these individuals, notwithstanding this clarity in the law. I believe maybe their parties do not know this. Some of the parties are headed by individuals who claim to be senior counsel. They say they have issued nomination certificates to this individual. It's sad. It's sad. It's very sad. And this thing should annoy Kenyans, annoy them so much that they feel the revulsion to do the right thing on the ballot.
What ought to be done, and who should be then the vanguard of this right here? If we're saying that it's a contravention of the law, contravention of the law, right? So should there not, apart from the citizen participation, should there not be somebody who holds up something and says, hello, you cannot do this? Or does it come at the point then whereby before an election then takes place, and you say, hold on, you could not have been on the ballot because according to the law, you have 1, 2, 3 against you. You cannot run. But it seems as though they're being allowed to do willy-nilly what they want. There's something in the law that states that they cannot, but they're running anyway. The IEBC, which is now, again, the vanguard of the elections, for example, is allowing them to go ahead. Does this mean that they do not know what the law says? Does it mean then those who legally, those who are sponsoring them as individuals on their parties, party leaders notwithstanding, do not know what the law says?
Plato is reputed to have said something in these lines, that good people require laws to act well, and bad people will find their way around the laws. You understand? It's not that these idiots don't know what the law is. They know what the damn law is. Yeah, but they're looking for ways to go around the law. They keep on daring the law. You understand? Like a dog waiting for you to lose your composure, it keeps coming to check, keeps on coming to check. And the vigilance that I implore upon Kenyans has been exercised before. When President Kibaki was first elected as the President of the Republic, the NAC government's manifesto was zero tolerance to corruption. It is the people of Kenya who are arresting policemen for corruption. You remember that time?
Yep.
Yeah, we can do it. And as we've seen in history, people have taken radical moves to make manifest what they desire as right. We've just alluded to 2 examples here in Libya and in Iraq. There's the early example in France. You see, the law is there for the people. If the law is an inconvenience, then you need to deal with it. Change the law, you understand?
Yeah.
Or do that which the law allows you to do. I mean, you've seen me participate in protests. I know there's a legal process. You understand? I can go to court. But you go to court, you find a judge who has been compromised. You find a judge who does not have the competence to handle the matter you're handling. You get it? We'll go to the streets and make noise. Some of these judges will start lamenting, they'll start shouting, you can't comment on Twitter. We'll comment on Twitter, my friend, because this is where we shape public opinion. And the mere fact that we are lawyers does not limit us to doing it in court. The mere fact that you are a journalist does not limit you to doing it on paper or the microphone. You can do many things.
Wherever you are.
Let's go to the provided what you're doing is lawful within the confines of the law. You do it right, and do it fast, as I always say.
0719-012-600. Should IEBC allow persons with integrity questions to vie for political seats in the upcoming election? Karanja in Naivasha, sorry you've been on hold for a while. Good morning.
Good morning, Eric and Nathan Harvey.
Good morning.
CT is also here.
Yeah, CT Muga. How are you, sir?
Fine, thank you, Karanja. How are you today?
I'm very fine. Why have you stayed so quiet like this?
It's a manifestation of wisdom. The lesser in wisdom are the ones doing the talking as he listens.
Karanja,
yes,
should these people be allowed to vie?
I think these people should not be around to vie for any political seat, given the fact that these people, they are corrupt. You remember, during the President Kibaki time, there was this MP, the Musikari Combo for Ebuye. He made a list of shame in Parliament. So I think the LBC should do this. Should make any list given to the public to notify the public that this so and so should notify for this seat. If they are giving these people ticket to go and vie, I think our constitution is having a problem. Thank you very much, Eric.
Thank you, Karanja. Zachary, good morning.
Oh, good morning. Good morning, people.
Good morning.
Morning. Zachary, how are you?
Oh, I'm fine, Elder Morimandro there. Very special regards to my lawyer there, Mr. Nelson Harvey.
Thank you.
he is actually, Nelson Harvey, I admire you. I admire the way you speak English and the way you show people that, well, I'm learned, I'm self-sufficient, and I cannot be compromised. Thank you very much, and may God bless you and protect you.
Amen.
And we need more of your, such people of your ilk.
Kabisa. Should these people be allowed to vie?
No, let me say this quickly. IBC should, it's doing its legal mandate, trying to tell us that this is the guy who has done this, this is the guy who has done that, he has a case. And the media people have actually done an excellent job, because every time a person is even deemed or likely proven to have, committed adultery, you people tell us through the social media, through radios, and therefore the burden squarely lies on us, the electorate. This, like now I'm in Nakuru, or probably in Nakuru South, is it? It would be very hard for me to go and convince people in the coast, in a certain constituency, that, vote for Zachary,
yeah?
Because they don't know me. But if I'm in Nakuru South, those guys know me. We have been together since I was born.
Yeah.
They know my character. Who is this guy who is presenting to us so that he can be our representative? And let me say this, Mr. Andrew, and our good studio guest there mentioned it, yeah? There is a Greek guy who tried to define a citizen and an idiot, yeah? It is us, the English people, who try to demonize the word idiot. Do you know what he says about who is an idiot? Can I tell you?
Please do.
They say an idiot is this guy who thinks that he is he's satisfied with everything, yeah? He doesn't want to talk. He doesn't want to join others when they are participating in affairs that are going to affect them. Because to him, he has bread, he has bacon, and he has got means of transport, yeah? That guy is the one that the Greeks try to define. And in our case, very quickly as I finish, yeah? I see the idiot being the so-called the middle class, But recently, it has started to affect them, yeah?
It's starting to bite them now as well.
It
Zachary,
has started to bite them.
Thank you.
They will be forced to come and join everyone, yeah?
Thank you. Have a good one. Jackson in Kawangware, good morning.
Hi, good morning, sir. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Good to listen to you guys this morning. How are you?
Very well.
Very well, thank you, sir.
People like Harvey are the guys who have put us in this mess.
How so?
People like Harvey having confirmed today on the national radio that he protects this kind of guys, some of them being his clients. These are the same guys messing our economy. And he claims that some of these guys are his clients, having also thrown some under the bus. The guys is saying that he's maybe vying for the governorship of somewhere. I don't want to name them. Harvey are our problems. They know the law. Integrity calls for self-discipline. It's not about twisting the law. That's what Harvey tries on.
Okay.
Westland is better be Wanyonyi. I'm not even voting in Westland, but I'm staying
You forget that Wanyonyi is a lawyer. Or you don't know that?
No, he has never confessed that he has some such kind of client. You've done so today on a national TV.
Ndugu, let me tell you, about 500 years ago, individuals in England said, first things first, we kill all lawyers. So you're not the first one. Thank you.
He says, though, that people who are in a position of knowledge, such as yourself, you understand the law, not just the letter, but the spirit and the intention of the law. And then you go to argue in the technicalities of the law so that, you help your clients to circumvent the law. The same thing that you're saying, that's what, and you call them idiots, are trying to do. Why does a profession such as yours do this? Support such? Are you enablers? Are you enablers of corruption?
There's no comedy that, there is no profession that has been the subject of satire and comedy than the legal profession. Understandably so. As I've indicated, in England at one point in time, the English men and women thought first things first, it was kill all the lawyers. So you can understand the plight of this individual. Wait until he's arrested on trumped-up charges. That's when he'll realize, oh, the guy who can defend me is Nelson Harvey. And you see, actually it will surprise you. That is if you're not well-read or informed, that I act for all cadres of individuals in the society, the mighty and the low. And I have no fear, I have no apologies, because it required that I had to have an A to study law, you understand? I worked hard to become a lawyer. I owe nobody an apology for what I do in court, you understand? And anybody else, a doctor, will be under an obligation to treat somebody who has been shot by the police because he was trying to rob or kill. So Kenyans must stop this mediocrity of low-level thinking. As lawyers, we do a job that we are given. We went to school to study law, my friend. You understand? If I may use the words of Senior Counsel Professor Githu Muigai, we are an elevated lot in the society, because without the law running smoothly, anybody can allege anything against you. Do you want to be convicted on the allegation of an individual before the process is conducted? You understand? It must be understood. So let's handle issues the way they are. Corruption permeates the entire spectrum of the society. You will find it in the legal profession. You will find it in court. You will find it in police. You will find it in journalism, in education. In fact, it is claimed that candidates for exams in education in Kenya are more corrupt than even the judiciary. You understand? That's why we deploy an enormous contingent of policemen to go and guard examination. But anyway, let's rest this topic, because it's an idle exercise. We need to deal with the issues. I'm not the issue here. I went to school to be a lawyer. You want me to go back and become what? A janitor?
Are there instances where, in exercise of profession, the same thing we're saying, it's the same thing that would be expected of a doctor. A doctor is here and this person has basically been shot while robbing.
Yes.
Or has been lynched by people because they were caught defiling a child, and the person has been brought to hospital. The doctor has one obligation. Treat, save this person's life, and not be the judge. But are there instances where you as a lawyer, just practical experience, where you feel this is such an outright case of, I know what you've done, I know what the law says, I know my expectation and my obligations as a professional, but I feel I really can't handle such a case?
Yes, and many have been such occasions, because in the ethics of law, you have an obligation to act for any client who comes your way. But you also have a right to refuse to act. I've refused to act for so many people who, in my view, for one reason or another, are not deserving of my legal representation because of my evaluation of their plight. And I've also acted for so many people who have been condemned, convicted by the courts of public opinion, and I've had them freed. You understand?
Cuts both ways.
Cuts both ways. I mean, let me give you two examples. One, my very good friend Jicho Pevu in Jaramandala something made very damning allegations against the former governor of Kiambu. And one of the stories was that his wife is the daughter of Harun Mao. Fact was, the marriage certificate shows Wanjiku as the wife. Harun Mao does not have.
Wanjiku as a daughter.
Wanjiku as a daughter. I mean, these are basic things. Yeah, yet it has been publicized on KTN at 7 and 9. Another thing, everybody here convicted the DCJ for offenses that in their minds had been committed. We went to court and we got her out. Let's get into the media sector. Walter Menya at one point in time had highlighted a very good story about the funding of one political party. And everybody wanted him dead. Held him incommunicado for 6 days. I went there. There's this other noisy lady, they call her Nyarkisi. I think she's a blogger for Raila Amolo Odinga. They send ATPU officers to pick her from Kisii. I mean, a small girl, she cannot even harm a fly. Held her incommunicado here for 7 days. I went and defended her. You understand? So, yes.
Many cases.
Many
Point
cases,
made.
yeah.
As we conclude, Nelson, you have a message, like you said, the people who wear suits, the way you dress today. Communicate that message again in just about a minute. On the issue of integrity, on the issue of selecting suitable people to be our leaders in the next general election.
I want to speak to the middle class, the upper class, the elites and the semi-elites. You play a pivotal role in social economic development in this country. But that role may never be actualized unless and until you seize the opportunity to actively participate in elective leadership. Because even the other facet of leadership, which is appointive, that comes from government, is based upon the oversight of the legislature. And it is for that reason that I, one of you, suited, who speaks English, as my friend has said, has deemed it proper to leave the comfort of my legal practice to venture into elective leadership. I don't want to call it elective politics. I call it elective leadership, so that we may bring change. And I want to implore you to embrace this. Not all of us can put our names on the ballot, but all of us can vote. Turn up in large numbers on the 9th of August 2022 and vote for me if you reside in Westlands. I'm speaking to you people in Parklands, Karura, Loresho, Mountain View, and Kangeme. It is within your power to bring change. If you've prevailed in a predicament for 10 years, nobody can tell you that you can bring change within 5 years. Change is here. What you see, what you're hearing. It is me. Thank you.
All the best, Nelson. City, let's conclude with the day's proverb from Rwanda.
Yes, indeed. A person's heart is not a sack open to all. A politician's heart is opened by their deeds, and it's open to all.
It's a sack.
Kabisa, not sack. It's a collection of sacks.
So, Elder,
He's a gunner.
I think I agree with you, because a politician ceases to be a person the way I said the president ceases to be a citizen.
You become public property.
Yes.
Thank you for tuning in to Kenya's biggest conversation. Let's see you again here tomorrow morning. Have a lovely day. It's 10 a.m.
Spice up your life